All right. Are there any conflicts of interest of the board related to any agenda items?
No.
Okay, I would like to bring up something on that line. I'm sorry?
It's just an echo.
Oh, an echo.
I got it fixed. We're good to go.
Okay, we will be, under 6.2, we have a resolution to adopt impact fees for new construction. I would like to read into the record an email that was sent to me by Dave Primer on 4/22 of 23. And it says the following.
4/22.
4/22/23.
April 22nd,
23.
Right.
This was in response to Dave wanting to have access to the website. And he says, and I quote, "Think about cooperating with me. Do you want 10-acre subdivisions in your front yard sooner rather than later? I am not stupid. Send me instructions. Thanks, Dave."
Madam Chair, point of order. Was that email distributed to this board before the meeting?
No.
Okay, then
Well, no, when I got it, I think it was.
it was.
I believe it was.
Okay, if it was distributed to the board, I would object to that being written or read into the record were it not distributed to the board before the meeting. It was. It was. Okay,
Back in April.
understood.
To me, that says that you are planning to develop your 200-acre property.
They should be talking to me.
Excuse me, I'm talking to Dave. The email came from Dave.
It's really not my property.
It's under my LLC.
So are you planning to
ask that question. Okay, so point of order again. We're presently in
Conflict.
we're discussing conflict of
conflict of
interest.
interest?
I'm not certain that necessarily necessitates communication from the community, but I would make a point, where I would ask a point of clarification, Mr. Trimmer. Are you married to the woman that made that statement? I'm married to Janet Acree. Does that woman own the property in question? It is in an LLC. Does the woman control the LLC that owns the property in question?
I don't think you have a
Point
right
of
to
order,
answer
point of order,
I don't think you have a
point
right
of
to-
order, you're interrupting me.
You're not pointing. If you look in the records at the county, it is listed under an LLC.
And does your wife control that LLC? She just said she did.
Well, yeah,
Okay, to me, that would constitute a conflict of interest were that property being considered for development.
you have proof that it's gonna be developed.
I don't have any, I just said, were there an intent to develop that property that would constitute a conflict of interest with respect to
Since
discussing?
you're being so concerned with conflicts of interest, there's another very large conflict of interest sitting up here at the front. That I, out of courtesy, don't address. But our chief has a fire mitigation business. And that's a conflict of interest when he's a fire chief.
But he.
Okay,
he
so
verified
hold
that he
on,
wouldn't-
point of order. The chief is not on the board. He has no conflict of interest with what this board decides. He has no vote. He has no vote. He is not an elected official. He has no conflict of interest with what this board does. Furthermore, I will note that you voted to hire this young man when he had
That's not
disclosed that.
true. Please stop lying. I voted for 36,000 a year and he promised not to look for a raise.
Did you vote to hire him or not?
At 36,000.
That's a yes or no question. Did you vote to hire him or not?
The issue is whether there's a conflict of interest on an agenda item. That's the issue. And
Conflict of interest.
No, that is not
on
true.
the agenda.
That is,
item.
that is false. You don't care if it's false, so you like
Okay,
lie?
hey, all right. Dave, can you verify that you have no plans to develop that property?
It's my property. How's he gonna verify?
You're married to him.
It's
You don't control
LLC.
development up here.
Is it a conflict of interest? Because there's an agenda item concerning impact fees, which are all about new construction, Janet.
That's false. It's not about new construction.
It is about new construction. Have you read the document?
Point of order here. Sir, Point of order. We will have public comment. We will have public comment. Sir, we will have public comment. There are
simply
false
about-
statements that are made left and right from members of this board.
You lied in the minutes.
And we do not, and we don't necessarily have the opportunity to correct them in real time, if at all. And it's not necessarily in the interest of our public or this board to try and dispute people's false statements left and right.
Your fault.
The matter at issue is whether or not there's a conflict of interest with an agenda item. By not, ma'am, we have raised, or our chair has raised that she believes that Mr. Primer has a conflict of interest. I do not believe you said you do not have a conflict of interest, but you did not acknowledge having conflict of interest. Is that correct?
I want to make it clear, I can subdivide my.
Mr. Green, order, point of order, point of order, point of order, point of order, 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 point of order,
Anybody in this room with over 35 acres can subdivide.
point of order,
We can't vote though on this board.
point of order.
That's
Thank you. Mr. Primer, either denying that he has a conflict of interest or failing to acknowledge that he has a conflict of interest, has the same effect of saying that he does not have a conflict of interest. We move on.
Okay. Able to vote.
He has, either through failing to disclose a conflict of interest or denying that he has a conflict of interest, in my opinion, is stating that he does not have one. My opinion, that means that he is able to vote.
All right. Let's move on. Approval for the January 5th meeting minutes as printed on the website. I'm looking for a motion. I'll second that. All in favor?
I'll have a brief discussion. Meredith, can you please highlight briefly which points were changed?
I added at the request of Dave Primer. Hang on, I've got so many things copied here now. To the minutes. Here we go. He requested to add to the comment, one member asked how reserve funds will be used to improve stations. Parenthesis, Pat Searcy. He wanted me to add what the chief replied, and I said, the chief replied, they will be used for long deferred maintenance. That's what I added. He also requested that under the discussion of the CWPP and the use of reserve funds to pay for the cost of it, that Steve Green and Dave Primer object to using reserve funds to pay for the revision and suggest that it can be done in-house. That's what I added, that sentence. That's all I added to the original form of the minutes.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing that. That's not exactly true though, because I didn't say that. And you put words in my mouth. I didn't suggest it can be done in-house.
Dave suggested it.
I know Dave.
Dave sent an email saying that you said that. So don't point to Meredith and say that she put words in your mouth. The gentleman sitting next to you did.
I said that. That's not fair.
Okay, agreed that you did not say it in the meeting.
I move to, I would ask that Ms. Reheis rescind or retract her motion. I'd like to,
Okay.
I would,
Retract my motion.
I would move to adopt the minutes as proposed, less the statement that Steve was included in whichever thing with Dave.
I will accept that revision.
So we can go ahead with the motion.
Someone needs to
with the
second them.
revised-
Someone needs to second
revised
that.
minute.
Correct. Does someone second that?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, did you move?
I did move. I moved to adopt the meeting minutes by removing Steve's name from the disputed section.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks for changing this. I'm still nay. There's not enough in 3 minutes. Nay also, there's the minutes earned. Don't tell the story.
Point of order, this is not a discussion, this is a vote. It's aye or nay. Point of order, sir.
Okay. All right, treasurer's report is next. That's you, Niffy.
Yes, the treasurer report, you notice that I've been doing this a little bit differently since serving as treasurer and the vice president of the board. We have a bookkeeper, Mr. Chris Creech, that does a lot of those functions, but I still hold accountability for everything that's in that treasurer's report.
I don't believe.
I'm still accountable for what's in that. So if there's something that's wrong in the treasurer's report or something that's wrong in our accounting, I still have accountability for that. I don't read the treasurer's report to anybody anymore because they're posted publicly. I would like to highlight that that we're reporting through 31 December 2023, our end of year financials. Our total year to date spent was 236 and change. And our total receipts for last year were 242,000. So we stayed below the total income that we received and what we expended on our operating expenses. There is also a note that we are in alignment with our 2024 budget plan. We are steadily moving dollars into our reserve to make sure that those are set aside for capital that we've allocated. And then we're also keeping as much money in our growth funds and only moving money into our checking funds to spend as necessary so that we can get as much interest as possible on those accounts.
Can I add something to that, Nick?
Yes, please.
So just to that, to what Niffy is talking about interest-bearing accounts in our, the extra funds that we were able to transfer to reserve, almost $20,000 of that came from us actually making sure that our money is sitting in interest-bearing accounts instead of just in the checking account and then moving it as necessary. So there's almost $20,000 of revenue for the fire district coming from interest-bearing accounts.
I'd like you to state that again, please.
Okay. So because of the way that we've started to use or keep our money housed in interest-bearing accounts, almost $20,000 of the money that we were able to transfer to reserves for at the end of last year came from that choice to keeping our capital in those high interest-bearing accounts. So it's $20,000 of extra revenue for the fire district last year based off of that banking decision.
So I'm just going to state that again as our treasurer. 1/12 of our operating budget based on decisions from our chief and our bookkeeper is just free money that we have because of decisions that they made. I'd also like to again highlight our chief, Mr. Benson, is going to be going under his annual review very shortly, and he'll be providing an annual report. But again, nearly $100,000 of free funds to this department, either gifts in kind or direct donations, have resulted directly from this gentleman's actions. And that concludes my treasurer's report.
Am I next?
Any,
You're
All right.
you're next.
any questions? No? Chief's report?
All right. Before I start my chief's report, I'm going to address something that Director Green mentioned. So yes, as I've been open from the very beginning, I do privately run a fire mitigation business based out of Evergreen. And as a contractor, I do not operate as a fire mitigation contractor within the fire district. Have not, will not, will continue to hold that line to alleviate any conflicts of interest of being a contractor within the fire district. That was something that I see as a conflict of interest as the fire chief. And I do not and will not operate in this fire district, just so everybody knows and is clear on that.
Our district or any fire district?
So I operate in our fire district, I will not operate. Yeah. So that, because my jurisdiction where I have authority in the AHJ, that would be a conflict of interest for me to go to someone who's asked for my services and as a fire mitigation contractor, and then say, as the fire chief, you need to have this and this and this mitigated, and then be like, but as a contractor, I can come do it. That's a conflict of interest. Same thing as if we had fire within our fire district that we're taking care of. And there's if someone says, well, the fire chief in his private company mitigated my property. That's something we don't want to completely avoid. Outside of the fire district where I'm not the authority having jurisdiction, or I'm not part of the authority having jurisdiction. Yeah, and that's not a conflict of interest. I've reviewed that with multiple lawyers, with the SDA, with the State Department. There's no issues of conflict of interest there.
And this was addressed at the time of hiring.
Just so we're clear on that. There's a couple of things I wanted to address that are not in my board packet that we'll go through real quickly. We're doing something new today with our recordings for the board meetings. So we're actually not only just on Zoom right now, we're actually live broadcasting onto YouTube. So we're actually increasing the availability for people to consume the board meetings in 2 different venues. The other thing that's really great about the way that we have this set up, as long as it works today, the way that it's worked in testing, is that as soon as we're done with the board meeting, it'll be automatically posted to YouTube with no lag. It takes about 15 seconds from the time we end our recording for it to be automatically posted to YouTube. So there should be no lag from the time that we end a board meeting to when it's available to the public for people who need to watch it after the fact. So hopefully that continues to work, and I just want to let people know that we're moving through with that.
Question,
Yes, ma'am.
and will it then automatically post to our website?
So
As well,
what we can
the
do
link?
for the website, we can post a link to the YouTube playlist. The channel, and essentially it's always a live link to all of our board meetings, and as they essentially as live as they can be. And even if we're having a live board meeting and someone doesn't get the Zoom link login, they can go into that YouTube channel and they can watch it at any time. So we're hoping that works well. And like I said, in our practice and in testing, it worked flawlessly. So it shows right now that we're broadcasting live on YouTube. And as long as it saves the way it's supposed to, then we should be good to go with that.
Just a brief comment.
YouTube,
It's available on the
It's
website.
just the Golden Gate Fire Protection District YouTube channel.
Just a quick note, I had asked when we had a couple recordings disappear, won't address that. I had asked Chief Enright, how do we make sure that never happens again? That was at the last meeting. And our Chief Benson and Chief Enright came up with this solution. And we're hoping that this continues to create more transparency, openness, and just generally keeping our community a little bit better connected. So I want to thank them for responding to that so quickly.
And do we want to address the other YouTube meetings? Okay. It was a bandwidth problem within our Zoom account. Those are kind of the few things. We can go over some of our, annual accomplishments next month. For the board meeting, we will have essentially an annual review of the district, and not just at our accomplishments, but really a really in-depth review for the public of our call breakdown, just a really like a narrative and graphical overall review of what has happened within the fire district for the last 12 months. We're also going to put that in print and mail it to all the addresses within the fire district. We have that budgeted for this year, and it's something I hope we do moving forward. It's the standard for most fire districts to be able to create an annual report for their people within the district to be able to have, in hand, tactilely, and available online. So we hope to have that free available next month.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Who's gonna compose that?
I'm composing that.
Who gets to review that?
The annual report.
The chief as the executive has been delegated the authority to issue reports and pretty much anything in relationship to his performance, what our fire district is doing. We've already approved that.
And let me make sure so clear, Steve. So the things that we talk about in the annual report are not things that are board action items. So it's not like going through any of the ballot A stuff or any of that. It's more about what happened in operations or from my side down, and not the board side up. Does that make sense?
If it's true, that's
Yes.
fine, but I have seen the fire district, it doesn't always work out.
Yeah, I will not be doing anything on the board side up. If the board wanted to do something separate from on the board actions, that would be something that the board would have to do.
The chief issues chief's reports on a monthly basis as authorized by the board. And this is a summation of his monthly chief reports as an annual report, which as an executive of our operations wing of our fire department, he is more than authorized to do.
Essentially just takes a lot of that, the information that we go through from me to you guys and makes it more digestible for the public in a way that is, they can be read in like 10 minutes with a bunch of graphs and things like that so that they can basically get a really good understanding of what happened within the last 12 months, sitting down to read a leaflet essentially. Does that make sense? All right. So we'll go through that. There's a couple other things that are not included in here before I start that have to do with training. We've done we have a ton of training going on in the fire district. I really appreciate everyone who has stepped up to help us with that, whether it's neighbors who are putting up with us, having lights on out of the station, throwing ladders last night until 9 p.m. Or our mutual aid partners that have helped us with academies. I mean, we put in the last 6 months, this fire academy or this fire district has not just participated, but held 2 fire academies, one for firefighter 2 and now for firefighter 1, which is a pretty incredible feat for a fire district that never had an academy at all. And as of today, about 3 hours ago, I was requested by one of our biggest mutual aid partner to again hold firefighter 2 because of how happy they were with their performance of their firefighters and the reviews that they had.
Clarification, who's that partner?
Golden Fire.
So Golden Fire, to us up here, the big city fire department, has said that our fire chief in Golden Gate Canyon should be hosting their fire academy. Is that what I understand? Their fire 2 academy. Is that what I understand?
They would like for us to do it again.
Thank you.
Firefighter union in this district.
Was it held by the district? When was that?
What was it, 99, 2000?
Yeah, I think so, somewhere, yeah.
There you go. So that's something I was under the impression that had never happened before from what I heard. So that's great to hear that at least it had happened.
We had a.
You had a full fire academy. And I retract my statement on that one. I just going off what I was told.
Did the city of Golden Fire ask for us to host their firefighters following that academy? That's not the question that I asked, sir.
And also the fire.
That's not the question that I asked, sir. We just talked about that right before the meeting. You accused me of not answering questions. All right, thank you.
And I will add to this, Niffy, the Fire One Academy that we're doing right now is just Golden Gate firefighters, and we have 6 of them in that, and we'll go to that. So we'll jump into the report, and I apologize ahead of time also to everybody here and online. I know I look a little bit different and sound a little bit different. I've been sick for about the last 7 days, and I also had a skin procedure done on my head today. So I have a non-district hat that's holding gauze onto the back of my head as I talk. So I apologize that I don't look the way that I normally do. And it's for that reason. So one more, I guess, point of order before I go into this. As you guys probably saw, if you reviewed the data, it's for the entirety of 2023. We're going to start doing or publishing data 1 month in retrospect. Instead of having data that we're presenting to the community and to the board that's incomplete, we're pulling it all the way up until when the board reports were pulled. It wasn't allowing for enough time for the firefighters and officers to create the reports that were needed, so you weren't getting a complete data set. And so we're going to do it 1 month in retrospect, which is the standard in the fire service for board data reporting, so that we have a more complete data set for you guys to read. I hope that makes sense. It doesn't cause any heartache. I'm still going to tell you in my board report where we are call wise, but the actual hard data that gets published is 1 month in retrospect. Does that make sense? Okay.
1 month behind.
1 month behind. Yep.
Okay.
So last quarter of, I have got my first typo. Last quarter of 2023, we started to reach out to our regional resources and the leaders in the other fire districts to make sure that we were involved with all of our external stakeholders and that we were really getting all the information that we needed to as a fire district. And we were also being able to be present in the stakeholders and what they needed from us. So we reached out to the county, the State Forest Service, the National or the Federal Forest Service, the regional and all the regional forest groups. And in doing that, we found 2 pretty large groups that the fire district had not been participating in. One is the Mountain Metro Wildland Fire Mitigation Council, which is essentially a resource group for the fire district to know what's happening for mitigation grants and or what's happening on the federal and state level that the fire district can benefit from as a recipient of fire mitigation action. So that's a relatively new group, but it's been pretty fruitful so far, especially as we start talking about this CWPP and the connections we've made there. They've been a really big help. It's a lot of discussion about CWPP stuff. And then the other one is a newer group. I think it's about 6 months old, called the Clear Creek Watershed and Forest Health Partnership. This is a group that's essentially modeled off of a very successful watershed group in the South Platte that has helped bring those fire districts significant funding for both homeowner fire mitigation and also landscape fire mitigation, where they're able to help their individual homeowners offset the cost of mitigation, but also bring in really large scale projects into the fire districts and have it either paid for or assisted by federal funds. So they're working on that as basically a protection of the Clear Creek watershed. So it's actually headed up by one of the water managers for the city of Golden. And I joined that last week, and we had our first meeting. It was really great.
I just want to bring up a point. According to our minutes, there's a comment or a question from the public last month about, will we pursue grants for individual homeowners for fire mitigation? And I would like to say just that's in direct response to that, is our chief is continue to follow up on things to make sure that we get individual grants for our homeowners, our neighbors, to do fire mitigation.
And we're just making sure in general that all of these groups are how the district plugs into the bigger grant machine and figuring out how that all works. So with that, the district is currently a part of the Mountain Area Fire Chiefs, Denver Metro Area Fire Chiefs Association, the Golden EMS Operation Advisory, Jefferson County Fire Operations, the Jefferson County Fire Marshals Group, Jefferson County All Hazards Mitigation Advisory Committee, Mountain Metro Wildland Fire Mitigation Council, and Clear Creek Watershed and Forest Health Partnership. Those are all pretty much monthly meetings that the district is now tied into and is able to provide input. So we are making sure that our voices are being heard where they need to be heard. Jefferson County, part of these meetings, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office has finally hired a new fire management officer, as well as an emergency manager. Chief Enright and myself met with the FMO last week, and it's the first of a series of meetings. So we met down there. He's going to come up here to look at our fire risks up here in the district. And then the emergency manager that Jefferson County hired is somebody that we're pretty familiar with here in Golden Gate. He was the previous emergency manager in Gilpin County. His name is Nate Whittington. So he's very, very attuned to the needs of Golden Gate and is very, very sensitive to them. And he was also going to have some individual meetings with us on the operations side in regards to all hazards risks within the fire district moving forward and planning for that. Jefferson County has resubmitted the Regional Wildland Fire Management Agreement that was drafted by the Mountain Chiefs Group to Jefferson County, back to the Fire Chiefs Group as an agreement and an IGA for our final review. It's going to then go back to the Jefferson County for its final approval, and then it'll come to for my signature and also a signature of the board for at least one board member as authorization, because it will be an IGA.
We're going to need to vote on that. We'll need a resolution for
Yes.
that, please.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can help draft
It's
that.
probably a couple months out at this point.
Okay.
I'm just trying to keep you guys apprised of that it's a pretty big
Is it
change.
standard IGA language?
Yes, it's a very lengthy. It's about 20 pages long.
I think we're going to want to have someone review that.
I think that's probably well worth our time to have
Okay.
someone review it,
All
especially because Jefferson County is having their lawyers review it. I think
Okay.
it's worth will be worth it when it
It's
comes.
illegal, yeah.
Like I said,
Once
let's just
we get it, we'll have a motion to vote on having someone review it, et cetera, et cetera.
That's just keeping you guys apprised on that one, because it's gonna be a big change to the way that we interact. And it's basically creating an IGA with all of the mountain fire departments and then Jefferson County as a signatory. All right, this administration, big announcement on top of the original 15 Motorola APX 15 or 6000s, not 600s, that we received earlier in the year from State Patrol. We received an additional 25 radios from Jefferson County and Golden Police Department. This is a significant donation. So we have a total of 35 new 8,000 or 800 megahertz radios for the fire districts this year. And it brings us to our target radio replacement for the entire district for handheld radios. Each one of those radios individually, just as the radio body, not including the batteries, which unfortunately we didn't get batteries in charge of this, is over $5,000 in cost.
Each one.
Each, yes, ma'am. They're all fully outfitted. We're closer to 10. So altogether, the value of all of those radios is over $200,000.
Do you have budget for fully outfitting the remainder?
So I'm talking to State Patrol about getting some batteries and some bases. They at least have some bases for us. And then I talked to our vendor for radios about trying to source some third-party batteries that weren't from Motorola to try to keep that cost down. And they think they've found some good options for us. We should be able to fit that within our current budget for this year to fully outfit those other 25 radios.
How the 800 megahertz work from up here?
Actually, very well.
Where you bouncing them off?
So the repeater, the biggest repeater site that comes in is from Thornton, and it really sees there's really not much of an 800 hole anywhere in the district anymore. Between Lookout and Thornton, we cover even down into the canyon pretty well. There's really nowhere where VHF outperforms 800 anymore. I would say
Is our coverage better than it used to be?
with radios,
Yes.
yeah, it's pretty darn good.
What's the value of the grants that you received again?
Of the donations, they were
Donations.
over 200,000,
What's your total compensation again?
including
Total compensation.
78,000.
What's the value of the donations you received again through your actions and your activities?
200,000,
What is your total compensation, sir?
70,000.
Thank you.
Kyle,
Yes, sir.
can you hit Thornton from here?
Yes. It hits it pretty well. And if it doesn't hit Thornton, it you understand how the 800s work. So
I've been working on the radios for years.
the
And 800s were rejected back when we were working on.
it'll hit Thornton from here. And if it doesn't hit Thornton, it pops over.
Thornton installing equipment.
It'll pop over to the big tower on the top of Lookout. And it's seriously flawless. The only spot, interestingly enough, that we have had any problems with 800 where the reception isn't like crystal clear perfect is on the backside of when you drop down into Centennial Cone, basically in the furthest portion of Centennial Cone. There's a spot over there where it's not great, but you can still get out.
Does VHF cover that area?
It's still down, it's still rough.
Is there a different technology that would cover that area? So we have coverage for all of our district with the available technology.
And we carry VHF and 800s.
So we have, with the radios that we currently have, we have better coverage than we used to, and we have the maximum amount of coverage that we could have with the available technology. And we got it all for what cost?
And I will say this though, up until now, right, there's a lot of work that comes into, especially the VHF side, the VHF repeater, which was, worked on by the previous board or boards and auxiliary. And I think Steve was on the board when that was happened. That's a huge benefit to the district. And there's a lot of things that have gone into that.
Which model Motorola are they?
APX 6000.
It's in his report.
So it's a
600.
600, APX 600. It's a current, like it's still the model that gets used by pretty much every government agency in the state.
What band is the sheriff's department using?
800.
Is the sheriff's department responsible for this area within our fire district?
Yes, for
Is-
the 800 megahertz.
Is the 800 megahertz system good enough for the sheriff's department? Are there any other public entities and emergency responders that are responsible for this area?
Yes.
Are they also using 800?
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, one more question. How much should we pay for that again?
But in general, the point, my point of this is that it's a huge lift for other our response partners, not even just a donor, to say, hey, we're going to try to help you out instead of trying to sell something to recoup their costs. And they're to help the fire district, and giving that to us is a really huge thing. So we're really thankful to them. So that's Jefferson, our State Patrol, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, who's doing all of our radio programming for free now. And to Jefferson County or Golden Police. They're the three biggest donors into that program. And we usually are super thankful.
If I can interrupt you briefly, I would like to move that we have the chief draft a thank you letter that's also signed by the board, thanking our partners from the State Patrol, Golden Fire, Golden Police, and Jefferson County Sheriffs for all of their support for our fire district. I'd ask for a second for that.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Right. Okay.
Dave?
He said
Okay, I couldn't hear. Thank
You
you.
guys want that at the next board meeting, or just want me to forward to you?
At your convenience,
Okay, I'll get to you.
because you're pretty much out there busy getting us free stuff.
Well, we got a lot going on, so that's
Okay.
great, but we'll get it. That's an important thing to get done.
Thank you.
Moving forward, I've engaged with ESO and our implementation team. I'm really, really impressed with how professional that has been so far. I'm ongoing underneath the initial training for implementation, and then it'll go down to Chief Enright and to our HR professional, Alvaman, for admin training, and then we will start training our firefighters. We have a target implementation operational changeover on April 1st when we migrate from emergency reporting to ESO. The powers that we see within ESO currently.
Can just real quickly, can you tell our folks what ESO is,
Okay.
the system it replaced, the cost of the system it replaced, and the cost of what we're doing now? If you know, I know Chris knows those.
They're pretty much even, costs are pretty much even across the board between the two of them. However, so our emergency reporting is our standard reporting software that we use. We currently use it to track our calls and do all of our reporting that has to go to the state and then to FEMA. That's we're required to do if we want to apply for any grants. So we type in all of our reports into there. It also tracks our training currently in a lackluster matter. It's not, we get our numbers from there, but it doesn't do a great job of doing what we wanted it to. And that's pretty much what it's used for. ESO, which is replacing it, is a much more robust system. It will allow us to do individual fire and EMS full EHR reports that are then tied into the hospital. So a surgeon at St. Anthony's or with the new Lutheran, when that comes on board, will be able to go and see our initial on-scene reports and everything that we've typed into the computer and into our reports when they're in the operating room with a trauma patient. So it literally follows the continuum of care. And then the greatest thing, in my opinion, about this is that our firefighters that are originally on scene with that patient can go and actually follow their continuum of care all the way through the hospital. So we can learn from what we've done and how it helps the chain of survivability all the way through their discharge. It also is going to have a much more robust training documentation program. And it also allows us to stand up essentially a completely virtual HR component. I don't know if Val wants to speak to it, but it's pretty robust from what we've seen. It's going to allow us to move all of our HR functions to the cloud and have it be very, very well organized and easy to deploy as we hire new firefighters. So we're really, really excited about ESO. And again, it's pretty much an even, I think ESO might be slightly more expensive, but it's minuscule, or it's less than $1,000 difference annually. So we're working well on that. The website update's still going slowly. There was a problem with the website hosting company. And then with the loss of our digital information manager, have been super set back. I'm continuing to do my best to work on the website and getting the new website up. I have a firefighter that we've assigned to help as well. And we're continuing to move forward on that project. I hope to have more for that next month.
Can we pay her to just finish this?
The new firefighter, or the firefighter that's doing it?
No, our former digital information officer.
She won't.
You won't.
Yeah,
We tried.
she took a full-time job that took way more time than she anticipated. And so she won't be able to
She doesn't
finish
have
it. She just
time.
doesn't have time between that and her kids. We could find a third-party contractor to do it. And if the board would so like me to do that, I can find a third-party contractor to do it.
I think we'd have to discuss that and vote on it. I'm not, we'll add that to discussion. I'm not sure that bringing in a third party at this late date is gonna be
Okay,
efficient, but
I don't know if
Yeah.
it would be either, and that's been my kind of take.
Okay.
We're moving forward on the fueling agreement with Jefferson County. We've had a bunch of delays with insurance verification and tax exemption verifications. We should be good hopefully on Monday morning to be able to get our codes active in the Jefferson County fuel system and switch our fuel into Jefferson County. There's just a lot of back and forth between our district and their district, and then the lawyers from Jefferson County and our insurance provider to make sure our ducks are in a row. Once it's in there, though, we're going to be saving a significant amount of money in fueling, and also operationally be way more efficient with that. So we're excited for that. And a huge thank you to the auxiliary for putting on an incredible awards banquet. It was really a great night for the district. Big thanks to our mutual aid partners, Golden Fire and Timberline, for covering our district when we had that banquet. We had 65 people at the banquet. Is that right, Petey?
Like 47.
47. No, I thought it was 60. There you go. 47.
Yeah,
It was still great.
wonderful.
It was a great people. During that banquet, we had the pleasure of badging, holding a badging ceremony, so a full official badging ceremony, promoting Nick Meyer, Peter Whitenick, and Daniel Johnson. Excuse me, full firefighter. My apologies. We also held an additional promotional ceremony for Lieutenant Brian Gokel, to promoted from the rank of firefighter to lieutenant.
which station is he lieutenant?
He's the lieutenant of station 83. And he's also in charge of our fleet. So that was a really good thing for us to do. And it was really a cool addition to our classic banquet where we give out awards and stuff like that for the firefighters to have a little bit more of that formal badging ceremony and the pomp and circumstance that goes around that. Operations, 2023 ended with a bang. As you guys probably know, one of our last calls for 2023 was a very large mutual aid structure fire. We had a total of 107 calls for service. 65 of those calls were rescue and 8 of them were active fires. We provided over 1,600 hours of shift coverage in the fire district, and we had 1,667 at least hours of training.
Chief, before you came on as chief, how many hours of shift coverage we had?
I do not know that answer. My apologies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know how many hours of training we had?
I think it a little bit less than that, and I think that this is a low documentation because it doesn't include people who went through EMT school.
Okay.
So I think realistically we're over 2,000 hours of training.
Understood.
And I'm trying to capture all that for the annual report next month.
Thank you.
We also started the busier side of January. We've had 9 calls this month. The first 2 weeks of January were really busy, and we've had a little bit of a break since then. But during that time, we also had 2 mutual aid structure fires, and then we also had 1 significant animal rescue. We had 3 firefighters go over the edge of the ravine into it's not Rye Gulch, the gulch on the opposite side of it's not Guy Gulch, it's Robinson Hill. So the gulch off that, when you start climbing up
Mayhem.
Robinson Hill, it would probably be the backside of Mayhem Gulch. A dog that had gone down there in negative 15-degree weather at 3 a.m. in the morning, and we had 3 firefighters that rappelled down into that gulch
Oh,
to wanted to
wow.
bring the dog out. Unfortunately, they did not get any pictures because we probably would have been in the news for that. But they
Probably for a dog rescue.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, firefighters just rescue kittens out of trees, right?
Just in the fairy tales.
Oh, there's been some pretty good animal rescues around here from what I've heard. This is the first one that I've been here for, but I've heard some stories after that. So Chief Enright's also currently working on updating all of our mutual aid agreements and automatic aid agreements with our agencies around us that wanted to have an update. Some of those mutual aid agreements are not going to be changed. Some of them are with updates. This was kind of triggered by us working through a project here in Golden Gate, where we basically coded an alarm type, say a structure fire, and we said this is what we want apparatus wise, and this is how many people we need for this type of call. So he went through all of those different types of calls and then added what our ideal package looks like for each one of those call types, and then said, this is what we have. This is the amount of people that we can realistically provide. This is what we need from our outside help. And now he's gone out to our mutual aid partners and is making sure that we can fill all of those needs. And also then asking them what they need from us. So those conversations are ongoing. The IGAs that are updated between us and our mutual aid partners, if they are updated, will be brought back to the board for approval and adoption.
How frequently do those IGAs get revised like that?
It depends. Some IGAs have a revision date on them where the IGA expires on a certain date. Some of them are open-ended. Some of our IGAs are currently open-ended, and there are a few of them that had an expiration date. We're trying to get to them all before the expiration date. None of our IGAs are currently in threat of expiring as it is. We're trying to get ahead of it.
How often are you reviewing the ones that do not have expiration dates?
I'm reviewing all of them all at the same time. Realistically, in my mind, they should be done every 2 years. We currently have 23 operational members, 4 support services members. That hasn't changed. However, probationary members, Chris Creech and Drew Pinion, have both gone through their initial training and are now both cleared to run calls. So they're both active running calls for the fire district. Our Fire One Academy is progressing very quickly. They've gone through 2 of our long practical days, many short practice sections, and 25% of the didactic material. And they're all passing. So as they go through their didactic material, they are subjected to quizzes and then tests. And it's all viewed by our DFPC kind of facilitator, which is Battalion Chief Lori Brill. And then it gets reported to me. So I see at live as they take tests, if they're passing or not, and their acquisition of the written material, even though we're doing it in a remote fashion or a hybrid fashion, has been very, very high. So we're really happy with the way that that's working out. The Academy has been a huge lift for us, as we expected, for both recruits, firefighters, and officers. We're really thankful to everyone who's putting out such a huge amount of effort to make this a success. And an additional thank you to the auxiliary, who has been providing endless amounts of food for all of these practical days and learning sessions, and they get devoured so quickly because of the amount of calories that get burned on these days. So a huge thank you to them. Probationary firefighter Drew Pinion graduated from EMT school in the last 30 days. He's passed all of our EMT testing and is now certified and acting as EMT for Golden Gate Fire Protection District.
How many EMTs do we have in the district now?
I'd have to go back and look, but off the top of my head, I think we're over 10. And we're about to add 2 more. So firefighter Nick Meyer started EMT school at Red Rocks last week. And then we have another firefighter who should be starting EMT, I think it's the end of next week.
So I think half of our personnel will be EMT certified.
A little bit more.
How many EMTs serve our district from Stadium at a time?
Oh, 4.
4.
Yeah.
So the total available to our district that could be potentially on call is 16.
Yeah.
75% of those are our district.
I would say as a small district, our share of EMT people who are EMT trained or are trying to achieve EMT training and not EMR training, which is a lower level but still acceptable level of EMS training for firefighters, is exceptionally high for comparatively to even let's say a percentage wise to a bigger fire district like Evergreen. I think we probably have more EMTs per
Would you be able
percentage.
to get like an EMT per capita number and just provide that as a comparative for us?
Yeah, I
Okay,
could do that.
not an immediate ask.
EMTs per
Yeah.
Yep, we could definitely do that. So in general, we're really happy with everyone going through EMT school, and that's been working out really well. moving on to station 81. So as we talked about in the last board meeting and in the budget, and all the way back to a couple of months ago, we started talking about renovations and just all of our stations and taking care of some deferred maintenance. The biggest station that has, or the station that needs the most maintenance done is station 81. It's going to require demolition of the interior, basically a soft demolition of the interior. The tentative date that we have scheduled for that is actually next Wednesday, January 31st. Before we go ahead and start removing things like carpet and cabinetry, and all of the things that need to come out of station 81, we want to make sure that we have the permission of the board to do so, to move forward. And I also want to give a little bit of an overview of the plan for 81 as we, and the overall budget that we have. So the current plan for station 81, if you've been inside, is to remove the downstairs temporary wall. There is a wall that subdivides the downstairs of station 81 into a very small office space, and then a very small another office space that doesn't get used. And it's a temporary wall. It's essentially it's not even framed. And we would like to remove that wall and eliminate the office as we are starting to put everything online, to make a bigger crew room that can be used as an office for people and documentation area, but also be able to put Murphy beds and a TV space and limited workout equipment, so that if we do have our firefighter does want to crew or stay at station 81, that we can achieve that. I know that was something that was really a big push in the previous designs for the remodels or rebuildings of station 81, and we want to make sure that we can accommodate that in the space that we have. And we feel like doing a temporary but a little bit more comfortable sleeping arrangement for at least 2 firefighters there is a really good way to move forward. We also think that by adding a crew room or crew area, that will have more firefighter time spent at the fire station. My apologies, and will decrease our turnout times. So that's the kind of big one there. We're also looking at remodeling the single downstairs bathroom. We have an anonymous donor who's helping us cover that cost. So very, very big thank you to that person. We're going to replace all the floor that was heavily damaged by the flooding earlier this year, and we're going to put down vinyl waterproof planking so that future flooding in that building is not a concern. If it does happen, it won't cause permanent damage as it has previously, at least to the flooring. We're going to resurface all the drywall and do repainting. Update the kitchen area with an addition of a stove so that it can be again used for crewing, then get more firefighters in that station. And update the very outdated appliance. The only appliance that's there is a fridge from probably the early 90s. We'd like to transition the upstairs area into a community dining area. So put some large dining tables up there that can be moved and also still function as a meeting space, training space, and it also keep that open office area upstairs. We'll be trying to find a gear washer. So currently, if firefighters we come back from a firefight or a structure fire or a car fire, and we have to wash all of our bunker gear, we only have 1 gear washer for the entire district, and we can wash maybe 1.5 pairs of gear or 2 pairs of gear if it's small people at a time. For all of our, that means like 10 loads of gear that have to get washed for everyone to wash our gear, and it's all at 82. So we'd like to get 2 gear washers, or we'd like to have 2 gear washers. The one at 82 works great. Another one at 81 so that we can have our firefighters in service on either side of the district being able to wash their gear. And then also with that, have a washer and dryer set up for wildland PPE and everything else that, bloody clothes that come home or come to the fire station from an EMS call, so that they're not taking those clothes home to have to wash in their own washer and dryer. Last thing we want is our firefighter to come home from a really traumatic call and he's covered in, gosh knows what, and have to be able to put that into the same washer dryer that they wash their kids' clothes in. So we're trying to alleviate that. And then also install some security cameras that are already purchased.
You found those?
We did find them. We found them. We found them for all, so we will be installing them at all the stations as we go through each
How
one.
much is it gonna cost you to install this?
So to install the security cameras,
Yes.
we think we can do it, we think we can do it with our own labor.
Okay,
We've looked at the kits pretty extensively and it should be doable for us. The total budget for the combined Station 81 projects is $30,000. I know this is a low amount for what we're talking about. But that's what we budgeted in 2024 for this, for Station 81. The individual cost of all these projects, we anticipate to fall underneath my spending limit of $5,000 per spend. And the majority of the work will be performed by either the volunteer firefighters or volunteer trade professionals who are also volunteering their time. We don't expect that to be for everyone, but we thankfully have quite a few professional trades people who have stepped up to help us with these renovations. Any individual items that are over the spending limit of my spending limit per policy, which is $5,000, we brought to the board for authorization. And Station 81 will remain in service during the entirety of the process and no operations will be impacted.
did we have a spending policy before you were on board?
No.
Who suggested the spending policy? Could you also log the man hours or the person hours based on firefighters and certified trades folks for us so that we can quantify the amount of labor that's been donated to the district, please?
Yes, and we'll, actually, I'm gonna speak to that in 1 second. I'm gonna write it down so I don't forget that, because there's something I want to add about that. So Station 81 will remain in service. So essentially the service delivery from the fire district as we undergo these changes on all the stations, we plan to have no changes in service delivery. There should be no impact to the end user. As we said, per policy in the spending limits, we could just move forward with this, but we really want to make sure that we have the support of the board before we start removing this stuff from Station 81. And pulling it up and starting doing the work on the station. So my question to the board is, does the board support this initiative, and shall the GFPD firefighters initiate the demolition of Station 81?
I mean, we already approved that budget as a board. We also approved your spending limit. I know there are times when it's like, oh, this is a $50,000 item. But if I buy it in $5,000 chunks, I'm not violating anything. So I appreciate your candor. I do not believe that it's necessary for us to do this, but I would move to have the board support having our firefighters and our chief proceed with the demolition and the upgrades as outlined in the chief's report and is already budgeted for in our 2024 budget.
I'll second that. The discussion, Steve?
Carl, did we get a breakdown of the expenses?
Oh, I
I
think
heard 30,000, I heard a lot of volunteer hours, but I didn't see any.
Okay, so as the treasurer, every single dollar that is spent by this district is broken down, is itemized, is put in our checking account, is put into our QuickBooks. In fact, I believe at one point, Mr. Green, you may have served as treasurer. You already know this. Why do you waste our time?
I never served as treasurer, and why can't Kyle answer the question I asked him? Why
Because
did
a
that make
question
sense?
about finances should be directed to the treasurer and not to the executive. Thank you.
you just,
Okay, so no answer. Thank you, Kyle, for not answering.
we will track all of the expenses for the project and make sure that everything gets submitted. And like I said, anything that's over $5,000 of spend, we will come before the board before we spend it, even if it's in part of that project. So for example, the one thing that I see that may come over $5,000 of spend is that gear washer.
Mhm.
And we will not move forward with that until we have the approval.
We're approving that tonight. That's what I'm telling you, like, we're approving the full 30,000 and any items below that, we've already approved it and budgeted it. That's what I moved for, was to approve the 30,000. Mary, you have a question?
I'm just confused about what you moved then, since I thought, well, I understood that we're approving the 30,000, but I still think that it would be good to hear what the gear washer is going to cost when it comes time to buy it. So
So I think the other thing that I'll put out there for both the board and for the public is that this is gonna, as we start to go through the station projects, through all the stations, station project updates is gonna be a standing portion of the chief's report. And so we'll have all this as part of the chief's report as we move forward throughout the rest of the year.
Can I ask that, you work with your staff bookkeeper to provide just a more detailed, like concise saying this is specific to this project to date? I think that could
I
help.
think that's gonna be important for us anyways.
Okay, I know.
This is why I have a problem, the budget and these large categories that were undefined. This is kind of like we have to approve it and find out what it says. I would like to hear what's in there before I can approve it. So I understand 30,000, that's easy to understand, but I would like to understand what it's being spent.
So we had a budget meeting, a public hearing. We had a budget committee. Myself, the chief, and Mr. Primer served on that budget committee. The three of us all approved of that budget before we brought it to the board. And this board approved of that budget. We had a hearing where we discussed at length each individual line item of that budget.
Not true.
Sir, you were not in attendance, so how in God's name would you know?
It's just not true, Nick. You have a habit of saying things that are true.
I was here.
Not true.
Was anybody else here? Was he here? No, thank you very much. So we had a budget that was approved by the budget committee. We are taxpayers. It's all of our money. This is our money. This isn't a joke.
There's a
We
motion,
we
there's-
approved a budget. We are improving our assets as a fire district. Otherwise, that money's just sitting in the bank, not serving anybody. We lined it all out, and we had several board members get pretty hard interrogated. And this man got pretty thoroughly interrogated about what are we doing with that money? Because it's important for all of us to know. And he answered those questions, and he was forthright, and we all approved it. Well, excuse me, the board approved it. This is a formality where this gentleman continues to go above and beyond and say, I know I don't need to ask for your permission again, but I want to be as transparent as possible with this community and with my board. And I'd ask that we quit messing around and move forward.
Us for over 5,000.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
He has a spending.
He has the spending cap that he imposed on himself. Thank you. I move to approve the 30,000 and of that budget that we've already approved. I think I had a second from Ms. Curley.
Yes.
I believe discussion is closed. I would ask that we call a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You don't want to, it's already been approved, Dave. Okay.
I'm A because of the reasons I listed. Not that I'm not.
Point of order, that was a vote, which is a yes or no question. The discussion is over. We don't need any of your editorial.
Reaffirms. The motion passes.
So again, big thank you to everyone who's volunteered their time. If anyone is interested in helping us take on these projects and the stations, please let me know.
Well, let me know. I might have some time next week.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you.
it. Impact fee study. So I know it's later on in the
We
agenda,
haven't done the community organization.
but no, I was
Still part
going
of
through
this
my
chief's
stuff.
report.
I'm just saying, just want to give a direct thank you to Jan Schneider, and BBC Consulting and, our bookkeeper, Chris Creech, who really have spent an incredible amount of time putting this together. It is a really, really, really lengthy process and has been very involved. So regardless of what the resolution, or what the results of the resolution tonight, thank you for everyone who put in the time to make that study happen, because it really is significant that we were able to produce that as a fire district. So thank you to those guys.
Thank you, Jan.
One more thing, I know this has been a really long chief's report, but there's been a lot of stuff in here. I want to add on the 3-month horizon, we've changed a few things. We talked about the district annual report already. And then as you go down to the 6-month horizon, the one thing that we're working on, and I worked with the Mountain Metro Committee on, is that we really want to step up or re-step up for the community in a slash chipping event. And also for our wildfire mitigation education initiative. So please stay tuned for that. We are working towards trying to host a slash chipping event for the fire district centrally, and also some education around that. After talking to some stakeholders within the community last year, after looking at our numbers with the county and the conservation district as far as who use the slash collection, it really seems like the road miles that are required to come from Golden Gate addresses to the slash collection points the majority of the year are kind of prohibitive. So we want to try to decrease that issue, or decrease that just whatever's stopping people from being able to do slash collection, and make it easier for people to do mitigation of it. So that's something that's on the chief's report, and something we're looking forward. I can't do 100% guarantee, but it's something to look forward to hopefully for the year. That's pretty much it for the chief's report. Any questions?
Tell me approximately what percentage of your calls involve someone's primary building and not like a medical call at a residence, but primary building versus everything else. Right.
You know, Aaron, I actually don't know if I could tell you what that number is. I really don't. Like, you're talking about a structure fire?
Or smoke report even from the home.
Just something to do with someone's primary building versus everything else.
I could look. I don't even know if technically we could pull that in the data from NFIRS, because it wouldn't separate it out. If it was, it'll separate it out if it's a structure. But it wouldn't be.
Structure fire versus anything else.
I could probably look. I think I can tell you over the last year.
Yeah.
In our district.
Yeah.
There have been no true structure fires within our district.
Yeah.
There's been, in our joint response area, there have been 4.
That would be 0%.
Correct.
Hi, just
Yes.
for my note, can you clarify what date are you gonna start demolition? I think Aaron said Monday, but I think it was
Wednesday. We're scheduled for Wednesday night.
I thought it was Saturday.
Not Saturday.
Yeah, I got an update this afternoon on the Firewise. Every year we have to submit, data to qualify for the Firewise district that we are in. And we were denied this year. We, qualified for all the data, the stats, the community, participated beautifully. The reason why we did not qualify is because we do not have an updated CWPP, which I see that is on the agenda a little bit lower. The only resolution we have to hopefully qualify for this year is to present, and this is long shot, to present a contract or a resolution showing that we are actively pursuing a CWPP. So this has now affected our district, the CWPP in 2011, I believe, it's on file. I did submit that with our application this year, and they denied it, saying it was out of date. I just wanted to bring that up. We have hundreds and hundreds of man hours, firefighters, neighbors, that we have all tried very hard to keep this going for our district. And I hope that we can come up with a resolution that I can get so that I can submit it to this and attach it to the application so we can qualify. But I was a little disappointed to receive that news. Thank you.
Terry, have they given us a timeline of when this has to be in to qualify?
We may get an extension, but it all depends on the resolution that the board presents.
What's the impact of not having a Firewise designation, sir?
It can directly impact insurance ratings.
The ISO rating?
Not in the ISO ratings, but essentially if someone's in an individual insurance contractor or provider is looking at a home, if it's Firewise rated or not, may affect the insurability of a home.
And I think a few years ago, we had a grant that was based on that Firewise that some people took advantage of as well. So I'm not sure if there's a grant implication or not on that. back in the day.
Terry, I think I missed what, you said that there was a timeline that they gave you essentially that said.
No, I asked if there was a timeline that.
To get Firewise in.
Whatever this resolution is.
Yeah, just
done.
resolution.
In order for Terry to refile for the Firewise, I asked if the Firewise people gave her a timeline to get this done.
It's a long.
How old is he?
2011 was the,
How long is he good for?
5 years.
5 years.
Not done it. So that's why I noticed it was on the business 6.1, and I just wanted to also reiterate.
We
the
just go to
importance.
people who did the original survey, pay them a couple $1,000 and do it.
Unfortunately, that's not the case. And we can go through that. And I actually have a representative from Ember Alliance online with us right now, who will speak when we talk about that, to talk about CWPPs, and where we are as far as needing our updates. But the original contractors who did our CWPP, the first one was Anchor Point, and they're no longer no longer around, doesn't exist anymore. And the second one was provided by Jefferson County, and they do not do CWPPs anymore either.
Have you gone out for 3 or 4 quotes? 2 or 3 quotes?
Pardon?
Have you gone out for quotes to get this done?
So we've talked to one one nonprofit that's doing the CWPP for the county. And again, we have this later on the agenda. We can go out for 3 quotes. But this is the person that we have online who's representing Ember Alliance, the nonprofit that the county works with, is by and far from other previous districts that I've worked with, the most affordable option by a large margin,
55.
a little bit under. And that's for an update.
Is there, can you quickly check online if there are any comments in the chat?
Can.
Just want to make sure.
Want to move on to,
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
if there's any comments.
okay.
Questions to
Pat
the chief.
Cersey had just said when you were talking about point of order, Niffy is repeating himself. And the point of order, Niffy is consistently giving editorials.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, Pat.
Can I go to community?
Yes, please.
Community organization reports, auxiliary first,
Yeah.
Dee Dee?
Dee Dee Ram Center for Auxiliary, Chief already tapped on, we, were very pleased to host them for their firefighter banquet. It went very well, it was a good turnout, it was, very nice to see the badging. And with the extra ones that got badged into firefighters, Kyle, what are we at now?
23.
23. And, let's see what else for auxiliary. We don't really have much. We're starting off the new year. Our next meeting is February 1st at 5 p.m. here at the Grange if you want to join us. And if you're a calendar planner, our big roast has already been set for Saturday, 15th of 2024. Other than that, I don't have anything.
And thank you to the auxiliary for hosting the
Thank you.
banquet for our
Yes,
firefighters.
The banquet was absolutely wonderful. Food delicious. Presentations great. Grange report, Terry?
Let's see here, we planned our calendar, you all will get your dues letters, coming up, we just finished that up and they all went out in the mail. Dee, you're working on a contract for the fire department. They have it. Okay, they got it tonight, so, we're doing good with that,
One moment, can you briefly explain what that contract is about?
That is a range rental contract. The fire department or the GGFPD uses this facility quite a bit, and we negotiated back, 2-3 months ago, to charge $300 to the fire district for the rental of this range, and it's pretty much whenever you need it.
Well, it'll be 12 times a year for sure, yeah, to hold these meetings. And then any other time.
And it's 300 for the year.
So for the minimum allotment that you've given us is 12 uses for evenings for meetings, is that correct?
Yeah.
At $300, how many?
Right, for the year.
For the year.
Yeah.
And then Wouldn't have
And plus, they get the firefighter,
Fire board, or the GDFPD
they
does
do
here.
their business meetings here, they have trainings, whatever, all inclusive.
But if we were to just count the board meetings, that would be $25 per board meeting.
No, that would be $65 if you were a Grange member.
No, sorry, you said you're gonna charge us $300, right?
Right. Oh, I'm
For the whole year. And so what you are charging us, if we're only talking about board meetings, because we're holding all of our board meetings here because our fire department, fire stations are going under construction. So you are only charging us $25 per meeting, according to this agreement, if we only counted board meetings. What is the normal charge per instance?
If you are a Grange member, it's $65. If you are not, which it's 200 a pop.
200 a pop. So the
I'm
dep-
sorry, it's 250.
So-
Yeah, it's 250 and it's 65 if you're a Grange member renting it as a Grange member, but you're a fire board, so you'd be written it as the fire board.
Then we waive your deposit as well.
And that's
So as the board has not paid dues and the department has not paid dues to the Golden Gate Grange and we are not members, the Grange is ostensibly donating at minimum, just for these board meetings, $2,700 to the district. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And each additional event that we have would be an additional savings of $225. Is that correct? Thank you.
And then also, I did receive, I have a letter that, the Golden Gate Range Board presented, worked on and asked me to read it.
Can, Ms.
Public
Cummings,
comment, maybe?
no, I think she's giving out this is a Grange issue.
Okay.
Can I ask that you, you approach so that we can make sure that this is captured?
We received, and again, the Grange board wrote this, and on 12/16, I wrote this letter and with our board, and it is in regards to another email that we received from Mr. Green. The email is posted on the website already. I noticed that this morning. Mr. Green signed this email as a GGFPD board member. And part of this email, he writes it is a felony, and he did address it to me, everybody. Even though he did sign it as a GGFPD board member. And part of this email, he writes, it's a felony to threaten an elected official, and you should not be president of the Grange with that sort of behavior. For the record, I have never threatened any public official. This GGFPD board member's unsettling email was copied to 17 emails and may have been blind copied to countless others. The state, national, and many other local Grange members and Grange officers were copied. We are grateful to the support and the concern has been expressed about Mr. Green's behavior and tone in this email. Mr. Green was wrongly using his GGFPD title for some type of leverage. Considering Mr. Green's GGFPD history with your board, his many censures, his loss of use of his official district emails, his loss of his secretarial status, I am hoping that this board, USDA, or the various Colorado state offices have the tools to deal with Mr. Green's harassing and misleading use of his GGFPD title. Thank you for your time.
Can I respond?
No.
No.
Surprised me.
Is there any other community,
But I can respond to her accusation
any other
as she
community
accuses me.
responses?
And
Public comment.
misinforms me.
Is there any other, are there any other community organization reports?
That's it? Okay.
I want to note that it's.
So we're now, can I ask, point of order, point of order. Point of order, Mr. Green. Mr. Green, point of order. Mr. Green, point of order.
Steve.
Be quiet.
Yes, please.
Public comment is coming up.
No, when somebody chooses you should.
Mr. Green, point of order, Mr. Green, point of order.
We're gonna move on,
Mr. Green,
gonna-
point of order.
move on to,
Mr. Green, point of order.
we're gonna move on to public comment.
January 6th committee here.
Sir.
I'm gonna read some notes that I wrote, because if I speak impromptu, I'll probably be kicked out of here. And this is for Mr. Green also, again. Specifically, I'd like to address all the misinformation that has been spread around by Mr. Green. He has continuously been sending out critical emails for months. The majority of the information he sends out are attacking board members Deb, Merritt, Kniffy, and additionally, private citizen and volunteer firefighter Chris Creech. And I suspect that after tonight, I'll be on that list. A good example, he does this intentionally to rile people up over issues that have already been settled. A good example is a ballot A issue that pops up on every single email, as well as comments about the board raising our taxes. This issue was resolved with resolution stating that this board will not raise the mill levy. If you have an issue with the taxes, take it up with the state or the county. Steve Green focuses on people that don't attend these meetings, either in person or in Zoom, in hopes that he can get people to side with him on issues that he's passionate about by taking his word for what is going on, because he knows he'll never get informed people to agree with him. Additionally, he always has to add that Dave Brimmer agrees with everything he puts in his emails. Well, Dave was on the budget committee that voted to approve. He also agreed to the resolution that prohibits this board from raising our mill levy in lieu of the ballot A initiative. How about Steve? You speak for Steve and let Dave speak for Dave. Steve, you ran for this position in part because you wanted this board to be fiscally responsible. But fiscal responsibility does not mean we don't spend money. It means we spend it wisely. You do realize that this district has been denied at least one grant because we had too much money in reserves. You also always refer to 80 calls per year, which is also inaccurate, as proved tonight. Just curious, in your mind, how many calls per year is worth having the best volunteer fire department possible? Not really looking for a response from you, because for me, the answer is 1 call per year. Anybody that has been attending these meetings with any regularity knows what a huge improvement has transpired in this district in the past year. Vehicles, communication equipment, training, Chief Benson's contributions, tons of new qualified firefighters, a resident firefighter, and much more. How about offering up some good ideas to help move this district in a positive direction, instead of constantly trying to put up roadblocks to keep us in the 1980s? I say get with the program. And by the way, remove me from your mailing list. I don't know how anyone could think it's a good idea to send emails to the spouse of someone you're always disparaging. That's all I have.
Sir, were those questions to Mr. Green, were those rhetorical?
Pretty much, yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there other public comment?
Sheila.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
This is the chief, and I know that this really isn't your job, but I was asked by some people on Douglas Mountain to bring this up. Apparently the snowplow guy isn't doing such a great job on Douglas Mountain. They don't use the big plow, they use just a pickup with a blade in front, apparently, and it doesn't really do a very good job.
For the county.
Yeah.
I never see them go by with the pickup. I don't see the picture.
With the plow.
But
So,
what they don't do is, when the snow is first coming down, they just go to the end of the pavement, turn around the back. And then the next day or two after, when they have time, then they'll come and do the unsafe section.
and it hasn't been very.
Okay, so I'm just gonna ask can I give Mr. Primer leave to like talk, crosstalk with you? Okay, all right.
You also control everything. It's okay.
There are rules, sir.
So they just wanted me to mention that maybe you could reach out to the
County,
county because it affects you guys eventually, because people are going off that road. And one of the people, a husband and wife who's lived in the neighborhood for quite a while, went off the road, and I think they were probably ones that you had to haul out from down the bottom of the.
We did not have to do that one, so.
So eventually it affects you.
You talking about Lower Douglas Mountain?
Pardon me?
Are you talking about Lower Douglas Mountain?
Yeah,
Is that county maintained?
Yeah,
Oh,
county road.
okay, all right.
it's county.
And it's usually okay until they don't plow it and then it warms up a lot the next day.
Yeah.
And then everybody's drove over and packed it down and then it melts a little bit and then it gets icy. So it's usually okay as long as it stays cold, but once in a while it turns into an ice rink when they don't plow it the next day.
It's still bad right now.
It's good. Thank you for
Really?
letting me know that, Sheila. We did have, as some of you guys may know, we did actually have a map reroute. We went through the county or through the district.
those are scary traffic that we're getting. I mean, these are people that live on that road and still are sliding around going.
What about a call to the commissioner?
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me know that, Sheila.
Anybody else?
Maybe from you as a spouse or somebody. I don't usually come to these meetings, I don't know what to do. Okay. I never do so. Just, observations. The president needs to keep order at the meetings, make sure
Trying.
all board members are fully informed of issues and make sure the meetings stick to business. The secretary should include both sides of issues in the written. I think Mr. H is doing budgets, financials, posting on websites, drafting resolutions. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Mr. H is doing a lot of the board work.
Is that a question to whom?
Yes, he did the resolutions. They said so in the meeting earlier.
He's doing.
He made this resolution to the impact fee and worked on it. And I know he did the budget. And I believe he also does these anonymous.
What is the question? Sorry. You're just saying, it's not a question, understood.
So just.
No, it wasn't a question.
Any?
Having lots of observations. The Grange and the fire department should keep separate. The Grange president is causing too much conflict in the fire department. No members of the board are fiscally conservative small business owners. 3 members are used to corporate government spending other money. This causes a lot of conflicting interests. And I think there needs to be some way where we go forward and don't have all these conflicts and everybody gets to speak. I don't know. You have to resolve this situation. You agree, Brian?
Well, there, go ahead.
Sorry, have you concluded your comments? Did you have any questions for the board at all? Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I know the board members know, and many people here may know, I was gonna run for fire board this year. I backed out at the last minute because of the drama that you see here.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Ryan Gamble.
Okay.
We've met before.
Mhm.
It's been a while.
A couple months. Yeah, I stopped coming to these because it's frustrating. It's a circus up front. There's personal attacks constantly. It's just unprofessional. And I'm a retired military officer, Navy pilot. I do budget for the government now. This is it's just not acceptable. We as voters are accepting it. Maybe I should have run, but yeah, it's too much. It's drama. It's sarcasm. It's rudeness to each other. Not all of you, but you know who you are. I mean,
Go back and look at the tape. You can see it's like just yelling at each other.
Could I
If
respond?
you ask a question,
Okay,
Go ahead. You have a question for me?
and may I respond to him? Yeah, there are,
I have a question. Why is the president asking the treasurer if she can respond?
no,
Because
because I was gonna address the fact that there are rules that apply at meetings. Such as topics, I'm sorry, what?
the, specifically the public comment, why are you asking me for permission? Is
It's
because
still public comment.
because I govern public comment.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's in charge of public comment is why he's, okay? Thank you. There are guidelines and rules for behavior at meetings. One of the primary ones is that discussion applies to an agenda topic only. And when that discussion goes off the rails, that's when we start saying, I pound this and it's point of order, because they're supposed to stay on the topic. So there, yes, there's supposed to be rules, and we try to enact these rules, and everybody hopefully understands what the rules are.
Are those
Certain,
rules, are they applied evenly to all the board members?
it's rules of order for the board, yes. Hopefully, yes.
That's
Point.
not what I see.
Okay, well, point of order is when
It's yelled.
it means that, okay.
Yelled. Hundreds of times probably.
What's your solution? Would you want to be our sergeant at arms, Brian?
That's what you need.
What do you think? I mean,
I can, okay. I use point of order to try and keep the conversation as civil as possible. You just did. You just did. And members of the audience are not able to call for a point of order, only the board that's participating is. I try to use point of order to keep us on topic and try to keep things as civil as possible. It annoys me to no end that I have to repeat point of order, point of order, point over and over again, when there are members who refuse to stay on topic, repeat themselves over and over again. But members of this board are duly elected by this community, and they have the right to speak. We have Robert's Rules of Order, and we have bylaws that those members need to abide by. And I will defend every member and their opportunity to speak so long as it is abiding by Robert's Rules of Order and our bylaws. And I also try my best to enforce those bylaws. What?
Well, he is the vice president.
During the public comment, it is my job to make sure that everyone gets an equal opportunity to speak, and we've thrown that out the window. We have rules online right now that we've thrown out the window, and I think it's in our public interest. But enforcing Robert's Rules of Order and decorum of a meeting is the responsibility of every board member. Every board member at any point can call point of order, and the president rules on whether or not that individual is out of order based on the objection that is made. Once a point of order is called, the individual who has been unceremoniously or not interrupted is to refrain from speaking until the president rules on that point of order. All 5 of us are equally allowed to call for a point of order, and the president rules on that. Thank you.
We have 2 comments. I wanted to read them.
Please.
So Pat Cersei, again, just wanted to say,
Could you speak up, please?
yes, my apologies.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Just Pat Cersei was speaking to Niffy, said what a dictator you are, Niffy, number 1. And the other one is from Molly Niven, Niven. I request to be removed from Steve Green's email list since he is not officially representing the Golden Gate Board. What are the consequences of the public not following the rules and rudely not following the rules of order? Should there be rules of order for the public? I think is what she's asking.
Take that.
okay.
The I believe that was a question to the board. It was about what are the rules for the public not following Robert's Rules of Order?
What are the consequences
Consequences.
of the public not following the rules and we not following the rules of order?
We have rules that are posted. I would prefer that we have open conversations as best as possible. If we had a ton of people here and everyone wants to speak, that's when I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak. The consequences for not following the rules. How about we just be a community that tries our best to respect each other and not have to worry about that? That's where I would come from. You all have, I believe a number of you are aware of some meetings that might have gotten a little heated. And I don't want to have our sheriff deputies up here during meetings. Let's talk to one another. I don't necessarily agree with everyone in our canyon, but it's our responsibility to do our best to talk to one another and try to respect one another. It's a challenge for me sometimes. But as our public, we need to talk and keep that discourse going. Thank you, Ms. Nevin.
Here is a copy of maintain order and healthy meeting environment. The following guidelines will be followed. If anybody wants a hard copy of it, it pretty much lines out timing for public comments, rules for public comments, and what point of order is. If anybody wants this, it's right here. Thank you. If all right, I'm going to move on to, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, Aaron?
Multiple comments. First comments are in regards to the proposed impact fee that you guys are gonna discuss.
Okay.
I mean, even though you call it a fee, I think we can all agree that it's just another name for a tax. So I'm gonna refer to it as a tax. Because it's a government mandated tax. And with that in mind, in generalities, the more government taxes something, the less of it that you're gonna get. So if you add this tax onto new buildings and also remodels or expansions of primary buildings, which is included in the document that I looked at, is expansions of primary building. And I can tell you which page it's on.
And yeah, 4-1.
And so do you want more building in the district? Because if you add this tax onto new buildings, you're gonna get less buildings in general. It may only be one new building. But, you know, that extra tax could be the make or break of someone building it, buying a property and building a new residence. The cost of everything going up, the cost of the property tax, the cost of everything. It seems short-sighted to add this additional tax onto someone wanting to come into this district and build a new home and move here. Because if they do come here and they build a new home and they move here, they're going to be paying impact fee every year in perpetuity.
No.
And it seems like we would want more people moving here, and so that we get more taxes into the district than penalizing someone for wanting to build here. And further, the more taxes imparted on us by government, the less freedom that we have. Do you all believe in freedom?
Used to.
Is that a rhetorical question or would you like
That's
that?
a rhetorical question. You can think about that.
Go ahead.
So since this is basically a tax increase on us taxpayers, if you believe in democracy, you should really put this on the ballot for everybody to vote on and not just enact it upon us. So questions I have about this proposed impact fee. I spoke with Merrick earlier today about it. And
Aaron, you're coming up on like 20 seconds left. Can I give him leave to run over his 3 minutes? Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead.
And I didn't read through all the legal mumbo jumbo, how you can justify imparting this tax on us. I assume that's all precedent through the courts that you can do it. And Merrick mentioned that the reason the cost per square foot is so high is because we don't have commercial and there's just not that many people here. And that's a fair point. the other point is that when I look at some of how the capital value of the equipment and buildings was estimated. I mean, the other way to decrease the cost per square foot is to not value the equipment that you guys have as capital as high. I mean, the one, for example, I know for a fact that the 95 Pierce engine fire truck that's valued at $50,000, the district paid like $3,000 for that truck. Second question I have is I know this impact tax applies to a new primary building. And if you'll look on, I'm gonna print the whole thing out because I didn't want to kill 100 trees. But, see if I can find it again. I think it's
What are you looking for? I can probably find it on my.
page. -1. Says, existing structures would not be subject to impact fees unless triggered by, redevelopment that added additional square footage onto the existing building's footprint. So that to me tells me that if I want to add a 500 square foot master bedroom and bath, whatever, onto my existing house, I'm gonna have to pay this cost per square foot.
Can Jan answer that?
Is Jan on the line?
And, so
Yeah.
now, what about someone, and Meredith, one of our neighbors that you know, is going through the process to add an ADU. So does it apply to an ADU?
Is that rhetorical?
I believe
You
it would.
can answer that later.
Yeah, the
I
answer is
believe it
yes,
would.
it does, yes.
Okay,
It
So-
does.
why, so it applies to an ADU and an addition onto an
Yes.
existing residence?
Yes,
Is it a
But-
separate, is it a separate building?
What about a barn?
yes.
Now,
No,
Meredith
sorry.
told me- Meredith told me earlier that
Yeah.
it does not apply if I'm going to add a attached garage onto my house or a workshop, then it does not apply.
Sorry, it's living spaces, sorry.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
So now this is a question that I want each board member, not the chief, don't ask the chief. I want the board members to tell me how living residence or additional living space added to my house impacts the fire department more than a garage does.
All right, I'm gonna just go first and say, it's obvious that if you have somebody living in a space, it's more impact than an empty building. I think that's pretty clear. Because someone lives in it. No, sir, you asked me to answer, so I told you, that's my answer. Someone lives in it, and that's obvious. The second thing is the basis of an impact fee is that everybody up here has been paying taxes for their property for however long they've been here to maintain our district as it is. Mr. Green is fond of saying that our district hasn't changed in 20 years, blah, 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 blah. But firefighting has. It's the cell phone that you had 20 years ago. Firefighting has changed. And when you add additional buildings up here, that means the impact and the cost of maintaining our district has to go up. Sir, yes. Oh, but what's that? So my point is,
Based on my house, how does that impact the fire department more than 500 square feet of
the
garage?
distinction that we're trying to make is trying to strike some sort of a fair balance. Like we don't have all the answers. So what we're trying to do is trying to strike sort of a fair balance. And so
in my discussion with Meredith earlier,
sir, do you want me to answer the question? Sir, do you want me to answer the question? You don't. I know I'm being rude because he keeps interrupting me. Do you want to but you're not letting me
With a
answer the
conversation,
question.
you take turns talking.
Rule.
Cool. Yeah.
You need to rule.
Okay,
One at a time.
one at a time,
Okay,
please.
I feel like I've answered that, like, we have to have impact fees which only go to capital So that we can, it's only capital. It doesn't touch his salary, doesn't do anything. It's only buying capital things, which means it's at least 5 years maker's depreciation. So capital equipment like fire engines, brush equipment, improving the buildings that we have or building new buildings. And so we can keep the place safe. We have to do the best that we can to find something that's equitable. No, it's not $0 for building a barn versus building a 500 square feet on your house. It's not $0. And like, that's not the delta in difference. That's not fair, but we're trying to do something that makes sense. And we're trying to do the best by the community. I'm done with my response. So if you ask for all of the board to respond, so I'm going to let them respond. If you and I want to talk later, I'm happy to talk to you later.
I'm sorry?
Does everybody else want to hear us argue?
You said fair and equitable. How many square feet is your house?
It's public record. It's 45 and change.
My house is 1,200 square feet. If I want to add on to my house to make it 4,500 square feet, why should I have to pay an extra impact fee when I've been paying taxes all year?
I don't believe that
Additions to primary living space.
And so now you told me that additions of a garage are included, outbuildings are included, but Mayor told me earlier today that outbuildings, garages are not.
That is correct.
That is correct.
They are not
You just told me
included.
that they are safe.
Outbuildings, I was mistaken. I was mistaken. I was wrong. I'm sorry. That's why I asked for clarification from the chief.
Primary building are included.
Yeah, if they are living spaces, that's my understanding. Yeah, so like if you want to add a garage or something, or a barn or a workshop, there's some balance here. I'm just like, look, like a lot of folks up here, like we do stuff. We live in the hills, right? We need.
Yeah.
Have I not already offered to stop talking and let everyone else answer?
Yes, you have.
I have. Okay. No, he asked me to continue. Thank you.
All I'm going to say is the meaning of the word impact on new construction is going to impact our district and our ability to respond to a mega mansion, which are coming in 6,000 square feet. I think there's one in the works right now. So it's an impact on our fire. Can I finish? Are you sure? All right. That's how I interpret this. And it's a very complicated piece of document. And we have the author online that can answer specific questions better perhaps than I, because to me, it's just very clear.
If you're gonna vote to approve this, you should understand it.
I do understand it.
You just said it's very difficult.
Well, it is, but I understand the meaning of impact fees and the fact that the money that is collected from new construction is it's going to be handled by the county. It's not being able to be used unless it's very specific infrastructure capital improvements.
So you're confused because it doesn't just apply to new construction, it applies to additions.
Is addition a new construction or not?
It's
Are you
new
building
construction.
something new? Did the addition exist before? Then it's new.
Then it's new construction.
You have to have a permit to do an addition, so it's a new construction.
Some of this.
Yeah, it's not a new kind of development.
During this scheduled time.
Can we let the board go ahead? Do you want the board to answer, Aaron?
I've forgotten what the question was.
Hit.
I can't remember your exact question. That's what I mean.
So how did that partnership with the living space to an existing resident impact the department more than 500 square feet of garage?
Gotcha. My gut reaction to that question is that a 500 square foot addition has very little impact. I would say, however, that it would require a board or someone with the skills of Solomon to figure out where you would draw the line of an addition to an existing structure of a longtime resident to say, well, maybe we'll exempt the first 500 feet, 500 square feet, but above that, you know, then you got to pay an impact fee.
I think it's just gotta be a new primary building on a vacant lot, not do additions, just only a brand new primary building on a new lot that doesn't have any primary building on it.
May I ask you a question?
But why don't we finish what we're doing?
May I ask you a question?
Let Mary.
Okay, thank you.
I do wanna ask, revert back to you. You asked the question about an ADU.
Yeah.
That was going to be separate,
Correct.
not attached to the primary structure.
Right.
Now that is an interesting problem,
Right.
because I don't think that that would be,
I have an answer from Jan Snyder.
oh, you do?
Yes.
Good.
An impact fee is not applied to an ADU unless the ADU is expanded. The ADU expanded is attached to the primary building.
There you go.
Accessory
Well,
dwelling
it's in
unit there.
construction.
It's an ADU, a 2,000 square foot ADU, but I want to add a 500 square foot addition. How is that fair to me? How is that fair and equitable to me?
I agree, it's a problem.
We did this, so, and I think we can address this, and maybe Jan can address this at some point when we get into this, but the big thing that, and I'm kind of interrupting, I'll stop talking if you guys want to keep going.
You want?
I'd like to answer, let's finish the thinking of, you know, the addition. How does 500 square foot of addition on an existing residence impact the fire department?
None whatsoever, because we already got the fire department in place, we're already using it, we respond. And it's just another tax that you're throwing on individuals, and how much money do you want your kids to pay for a house? In the future, it's gonna be down there renting a apartment building all day.
Are you done then?
I'm done.
Okay, as you know, Aaron, I'm totally against this tax. This thing's a can of worms. Not only is it a can of worms, it's so poorly written, the resolution, but the idea is erroneous too. First of all, there's people up here who have vacant land who pay more taxes than people who have houses on it, especially if it's zoned residential. Because they're being taxed at a 29% rate versus 7, I think, or 6.5. So it doesn't make sense. It opens up all sorts of problems. I'm totally against it. And I've made that.
Okay, new person.
I don't understand why the impact fee you're proposing is, why it's separate from the taxes we pay through the military. If we build a building or expand our house or build a new house, it increases the value of the property. The value gets taxed at that higher value through the military, and you get more money. So it's already there. Why is there a separate fee other than the system we already have to tax the assessed values of our homes? Or our property, if you increase the assessed value, the taxes that you pay go up. Why is an additional fee above that necessary?
Exactly.
Who do you want? Would you like someone to answer that?
And you can answer, please.
And so one of my big things that I just want to come back to on an impact fee is, why do you want someone to be a free rider on your taxes that you've paid? That is one of my big things. You have been paying for all of this community and for these houses. So if somebody comes up here, they're the incremental that you pay in property taxes, and quite frankly, the impact fees are not that big compared to what you're paying incrementally annually in a property tax. It's just saying, we believe, and there's a specific law that defines what an impact fee is. It says, this is a statewide, if not nationwide type of legislation. It's a very common thing that says when new people move in and change the nature and the character of your community, you have to ask them to, hey, like, I've been a member of my golf club for 30 years. Somebody new shows up, they have to pay an initiation fee. That's what happens. Like, this is not an uncommon thing. And we're just asking that when new people come in, that they help pay their fair share of taxes to make sure that we have the capital infrastructure to protect our existing homes. And that's where I'm coming from. And I just wanted, like, there was one more, is that okay, sir? There was one more thing. There was a question about an addition. If someone has a 1,200 square foot home and they add 12,000 square feet to it, that's not the same home anymore. Like that, these are just guys, like, I'm just asking I'm appealing to you to just say, I think that what we're doing is trying to protect the investments in your homes and in our district that we've already made, and asking people that come new to our district to pay their fair share. Or if you expand greatly upon your living space, because we're primarily concerned with protecting living space and not getting in the way of, hey, I got a new car and I want to make sure that I've got my car and my RV covered.
The assessed value takes care of that.
That's exactly
The
right.
assessed value takes care of that. If I add 12,000 square feet, it gets assessed and I get taxed and you get a piece of it.
Yeah, it's not, I don't get a piece of it.
The fire department gets.
So,
No levy.
Yeah, I don't.
You have some sense too with your comments, not just us.
No,
The
no.
assessed value
The-
takes care of
Well, that's where I think, yeah, the assessed value is for an ongoing and operations maintenance. That's what we do. Our revenue, and this is how we built our budget. Our revenue is what we use for operations. And then any surpluses we move to capital improvements. That's how we're doing everything. We've got the, we've got the certain, that's not,
completely false.
how's it false?
Because when we pay taxes, cities and counties also have capital budgets and operating budgets. It comes out of taxes. What account number you have it in is where you decide to put it.
I don't think that's false. We have an operational budget that we run, and any surplus on that operation gets moved into our reserves. And we don't increase our operation budget to ever exceed what we think is going to be the income that we get. I'm very conservative about that.
Account numbers, and that is irrelevant compared to what we're talking about now. A fee, which you're saying is common nationwide, is the common way to get around the tax rate. And that's what's going on. The tax rate is in there to give our public agencies fees to spend and accomplish their responsibilities.
I'll just
finish
my thought, and that was that what I'm saying is our mill levy and the property tax and the assessment rate, that is about our operational budget. The law requires that an assessment fee is only for capital. And I have been and this man, he will not lie about me. I know that. I sat at my table with him. I said, we will not deficit spend. Our operational budget will never exceed the revenues that we get from taxes. If we ever need to do something like building a new station or something, that will go on the ballot. I was asked to do deficit spending, was I not? Was I not asked to do deficit spending on our operational budget?
You have capital spending in your budget?
The capital spending is from our reserves. That's money that's not getting.
It's all received from tax money that we pay.
Because our operational budget was less than the revenues that we got. That's called being fiscally responsible.
Still don't need to add an impact.
Need more money and raise the millage rate and have the public support it. That's the way it should work.
Or a bond, if you need a large.
Right.
We should go out for debt.
Just.
A bond, what is a bond? A bond is debt.
Hey. Steve, did you want to make a comment?
I did. Nippy seems to assume that people who own the house up here don't pay taxes. Everybody who owns land up here pays taxes. Some people pay quite a bit because they're not agricultural. Some people pay more.
You're talking about.
When did I say that? When did I say that people who don't have a house up here don't pay taxes? When did I say that? No, when?
You said a little while ago, you're talking to free riders.
Yeah, so the free ridership is someone who comes up, buys a property and builds a house.
Somebody else has paid
That's
tax
called-
before them on the property.
The property was different. Do you not understand that? The vacant land is different from having a home on it. That's,
They pay taxes
On that home.
on that property they're paying taxes.
I've already addressed that. I don't want to go in circles. I know that you disagree with me on this. And I'm not trying to be like an ass. Do you think I want to pay more money? Like, I'd love to expand my home, but I do believe that if I do expand my home, that I owe it to the rest of the community to pay an impact fee to ensure that I'm paying my fair share for what that has on the fire department.
You don't owe me any.
That's right.
Okay. Dee Dee, and then we're gonna move on.
2 questions, because I'm like spinning, Question 1, Is this impact fee, is it only something Golden Gate wants to do? Or do other districts have impact fees? Yes or no?
Are you asking me?
Yes,
Yes, and statewide, there are many, many fire
so
districts.
this is not.
It's not just
something
5 districts, there's hundreds of special districts.
Golden Gate wants to impose.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, second question, my time. Is there an expert online for this topic?
No.
No.
And well, for, so we have the expert who wrote our impact fee study. Yes, that person is online.
So should they be talking? I mean, is there something they can input to this? Because I was here and now I'm here.
It's all in the piece that they wrote. Jan wrote something, it's there, you can read it.
And in Jan's study, she said there's about 15 to 20 districts in the state that's doing this.
I mean, there's many hundreds of districts in the state. But why do we have to copy people? Why do we want to copy a bad idea? It's a bad idea.
Does
Hi,
Jan want to?
This is Jan Snyder. It sounds like maybe,
Okay, hold it.
yeah, this is Jan Snyder. I did author the report. If you look in section 4, there is a table there that shows some of the other fire districts nearby to us here on the Front Range that have impact fees. It's very common among fire districts. It's very common among other special districts. The question came up on the expansion of a primary building versus an ADU versus whatever. That's also addressed in the report. I believe it's in section 3. The information that's available is from the Jefferson County Assessor's Office. In their records, the only information they provide is on square footage of primary building and square footage of basement. In talking to the chief, he says it's no difference in fighting a fire from their perspective, whether it's a building with a basement or without a basement. So we decided not to consider basement. There is no other information readily available from the assessor's office on square feet of what you have on your property besides your primary building. We all know that there are lots and lots of other buildings, and this is all in the report. There are garages, there are ADUs, there are gazebos, there are gymnasiums, there are horse arenas, there are stables, on and on and on. I can go on. To determine whether each of these should be considered or not is extremely subjective. And it's way beyond the scope. I mean, we can get the square footage from every one of those buildings individually from the county assessor's records, which is a lot of work, but it could be done. But then the question becomes, is it habitable or is it not? So again, a lot of subjectivity to it. So there were several of us who talked this over and said, the logical thing to do is to look at the primary building, which is from the square footage of the primary building, which is from the assessor's office. And so that's the basis of it. So the ADU would not be included unless either the ADU is attached to the primary building and expands it, or the ADU expansion becomes so big that the Jefferson County assessor now classifies it as the primary building. So that's some of the basis on the discussions that went into this and why we're looking at a primary building only, an expansion of a primary building only.
If I could build a 1,000 square foot ADU and not be charged as tax. But if I had 1,000 square feet on my primary building, then I have to pay this tax.
She can't answer that because she's not the county assessor.
Well, the impact.
That's what you just said.
That's not what she said.
I thought she said.
She said if the
bigger.
assessor judges that your ADU becomes your primary residence,
The ADU does not.
Yes.
Get assessed.
yes.
Under that assumption, the ADU is the ADU. 1,000 square foot ADU does not get charged as tax, but 1,000 square foot addition does get charged a tax.
That's correct. That's
Please
correct.
explain how that's fair.
I don't think
Well,
that's
it's
fair and
living.
equitable.
It's not fair. Hey, I'm the first one to say it's not fair, but it can be done. And everything else is so extremely subjective on whether, is it habitable or is it not? Or even is habitability important? And we get into, all kinds of fine hairs and everything. We can get data readily from the assessor's office on the square footage of the primary building. And therefore, that's what it was decided that the factor that would be used in the impact fee is the square footage of the primary building. And so it's either a totally new primary building that somebody builds on a vacant lot, or it's an expansion to existing primary building.
Dan,
No, it's not fair. Absolutely. No doubt about it. And if somebody can come up with a better system, I'd be glad to discuss it and we can work it out. And it really doesn't change the bottom line. Because if we start using all of the square footage of all of the buildings on all of the properties, that reduces the dollars per square footage, but somebody who's putting up a new primary building with a garage and a stable has more square footage that we're counting. So the bottom line number really doesn't change very much.
System Dave Rogers spoke of is in place and is the best system there is. Your assessed value changes your property tax, it changes the amount of money the fire district receives. Impact fees, a can of worms.
It is transparent and it requires the public vote to increase, which may very well be done. So-
yes, sir, I know you had a question earlier.
Is that for me?
No.
Yes.
Sam,
I just want to say, I just agree with it. It's socialism. I don't like it. I think 350 a square foot is ridiculous if you didn't even add it.
Well, I forgot, this fire department started with a pickup truck by Mr. Ramstead. Now you got millions of dollars worth of
I
buildings.
haven't forgotten.
You got an expensive cheap running the show. Everything's been going along fine. You got donations coming in like crazy for years. We got enough money to grow, aren't we? You just said you haven't even had a structure call in a while. Everything you do is car accidents. They said they had too much money. And then to have 3 people tell these people that they gotta pay this, it's not fair. It should be a vote in the canyon. If the canyon wants it, then fine. But this was started with a pickup truck by Mr. Ramstead. And now look at it.
Actually, this is what the other departments, charge.
The other departments aren't even close to what you charge. 28 cents a square foot, $1.60, 80 cents, $1.50, 53 cents, and 2.82.
what are you
You're at
reading?
3.50.
What are you reading?
25 cents.
From the report, if I knew the report.
Aaron.
This is
It's in the
Do you-
report. I
This
did
is
the
just a
same
new
thing.
wave thing to get more money out of people to grow this phenomenal fire department. We already have a good fire department.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Garrett?
Wow.
And then, I know, sorry, well, people have been talking without raising their hand.
I was a fireman for 30 years. I ran on 1,800 calls, all for free. Now, I'm thinking about adding an addition onto my house, a
We
kitchen.
know.
Not because I want it, but my wife told me I have to.
Go ahead.
Less than 500 square feet. And in my opinion, if anybody owes anybody money, it's you guys who owe me for an impact, okay? I've gotten up for my Thanksgiving dinner year after year. I can think of 2 fatalities on Christmas that I had to go out on. But anyway, never mind all that. I read the impact thing and it was confusing to me. It actually said, if you don't change the footprint of the building, you will not incur a charge. Does that hold true?
That's correct.
Well, you can
I'm
add,
good
we
if
can go
that's
up.
the case.
You're good.
I'm good if that's-
Jeff was gonna limit how tall you can build the building at a certain point.
It's how to consider with your own firefighters. Time is money. These guys are offering and giving of their prime years of their lives to do something for the community. Those guys who live in district, who want to do a small, reasonable, I liked what Meredith had to say, 500 feet or less. You ought to give them some kind of a consideration, maybe half charge in light of what they're giving.
Just for firefighters.
Is that reasonable?
No, I'm thinking, okay, let me clarify what I meant to say. No, you're fine.
We also have some folks online that want to make comments.
It just seems that if it's quite a small addition to an existing primary structure, and we'd have to figure out what that quite a small would be. But let's say it's 500 square feet. If it's 500 square feet or less, you don't have to pay the fee. If it's more than that, subtract 500 and you pay the impact fee on whatever you exceed it by. That's a possibility. We would have, I was going to ask Jan if there's flexibility enough in these rules of how you set up impact fees to do something like that. And I'm not saying don't quote the numbers, but I'm giving an example of a possibility.
Get rid of the whole thing. It's a can of worms.
Okay, point of order. You're repeating yourself. I will come to you. Can you go ahead and read the comments from online, please?
Hang on, can I, this is
Oh, do they
Jan,
want
can
to
I answer
say-
that question?
Sorry, excuse me.
Go ahead, Jan.
Okay, the text in multiple places says this is the maximum that is allowable. And the way the regulations are written by the state of Colorado is that the study is done to identify the maximum allowable impact fee, and then the board of the special district can determine whatever fee amount they want below that or up to that point. So this is the maximum. I have not seen in the limited number of studies that I reviewed where they exempted the first, let's say, 500 feet. But I also didn't see anything that would prohibit us from doing that. So I think that's an entirely a possibility. So I'm done.
And we could unilaterally, if we wanted to, say it could be significantly less than $3.25 a square foot. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes, that is definitely correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Good point, Meredith. Excellent. All right,
Can you say that again?
Paul, did you, anything else?
If I can be heard.
Okay.
One moment. Can you just say that again, please?
This resolution is to approve the study, not to implement.
Right. Just to approve the study.
Okay.
Someone,
I don't need you to tell me that.
Then why did you ask? I apologize. This man really gets under my skin sometimes, and I apologize to y'all for letting that happen.
Yeah, and you're
Someone
so
else.
respectful, aren't you? Yeah.
someone else wanted to talk?
So I think Emily Sexton and both Pat Cersei, Pat, sounds like you're already online. Do you want to make your public comment?
Yes, I would like to speak. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess what I think what was just now clarified is that what you're trying to approve is just to do a study and not really pass the impact fee. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, that's correct.
Study's done.
Okay, glad I feel better now. Because the reason I was concerned is that a lot of our state leaders often take it upon themselves to call things a fee because they know that they are trying to get something that is not publicly popular. So that way they get around calling it a tax and they just enact it. So I'm glad you're only considering doing a study on this rather than just implementing the impact fee. But my point too is that it was already stated a while ago, just very early in the meeting, is that we were not able to get grants because we have so many funds available. So I'm wondering why it is that you guys are even considering doing this when we apparently have a lot of money available to the point that the state won't even help us out on grants. it's like you're trying to find a different way of gaining revenue instead of dealing with what you already have. Am I out of line on this or what? I'd like an answer.
Thank you.
You are correct.
Did you,
made an observation that
point of order, did you want, Mr. Searcy, did you want Steve
can
to
you be-
answer that question? Or did you want, Deb to appoint someone on the board to answer that question? Sir?
Well, I would like to hear from all the board members, not just you, not just Deb. I would like to hear what Steve had to say. I don't want to have Steve interrupted if he says something that gets under your skin. He's a board member and he's allowed to speak. So please.
Mr. Searcy, do you want me to respond to that?
You're interrupting me.
I apologize for interrupting. I thought you had finished.
You often say that you want to hold respectful meetings, but you are never respectful to him. I know he's not respectful all the time. He gets under my skin sometimes too, but he has a right to speak his mind, and you need to give him more than 5 seconds once in a while to talk. Is that clear?
Yes. And I'm going to call on Steve to answer you.
Pat, you made an observation, which is true. It's an observation that took into account what was said earlier in the meeting. I had made the same observation. I agree. And I'm totally against this. And I'm a little confused about this approving the study. I do not believe that was the plan tonight. According to this agenda, it has a vote on the resolution to adopt impact fees.
No.
It doesn't say resolution to approve study.
Steve, do you want to read it? Want me to read the last line of the resolution?
You can't read anything. Just let me just say 6.2, resolution to adopt impact fees for new construction. So whoever says we're approving a study, well, the study's already done. Jan did the study. And I don't believe that's the case. Somebody changed something along the line here. I'm done, Pat. Thank you.
Mine says the same thing.
6.2.
Yeah,
Okay.
the agenda does say that,
What does the resolution say,
But
Aaron?
that's not what the.
Aaron, what does the
but the
resolution say?
resolution is to approve the
Can,
study.
Aaron wanted to, yeah.
Question says that, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, I'm just gonna read the last paragraph. Board of Directors of the Golden Gate Fire Protection District has adopted the Golden Gate Fire Protection District Impact Fee Study adopted on January 17th to be implemented on earlier than July 1st, 2024. That tells me that the resolution is to adopt this and implement it.
Does adopt the study.
Adopt the study and implement it.
In order to implement, we have to go through the study and actually get stuff done. It's not like, that's why there's a date that's set out there. It's adopting the study is what the action is.
Very unclear.
Okay.
I took it as you were gonna adopt this as law and implement this.
I think that is very fair to say that it's unclear.
You want a table? Want a table?
Well, we're not even table. Okay,
Okay, I got something for you.
Oh.
I think we should.
Say it.
Like to have this, but we did agree not to raise taxes. I think we should put this to a vote to the people, by the people, and see if they would approve the impact fees.
Which people did?
The people of the community should be able to vote on this at a polling place.
Ballot initiative is what you're saying?
I want to call it that. I call it going to the polling place and voting on this. Put it on the ballot so you can vote.
Or just get rid of it.
That's the people in the whole community.
And Emily Sexton,
That's.
Ms. Sexton, please.
Taxes.
I
And
did.
you adopted that and you voted. Well, that's tax.
Paul, did you want
You
to
don't
say?
have
So there's a Miss Saxton on the line. Emily Saxton.
Yes, I am. I'm just waiting for clarity in the room.
Please proceed.
Thanks.
Please proceed.
Emily Sexton here for a public comment. I've lived in Jefferson County my whole life, and someone who owns vacant land in Golden Gate Fire District, I am one of those people who has the vacant land that has been paying property taxes on it because I couldn't afford a home given inflation and all the other issues I'm sure all of us are feeling these days. I wanted to find out if consideration has been given for all the additional costs that plague people who are trying to build a home. So that's county reviews, county development impact fees, fire code requiring fire resistant materials, especially given where we live, permit fees, requirements that our fire district requires us for our site plan. Wanted to find out if any study, and I don't know if the person that authored the study wants to speak to this, or a board member, if any of that had been factored into this proposed impact fee amount.
Study from $8,000.
Point of order.
Yeah, this is Jan Snyder, since she specifically, I believe, addressed me. And the answer is no. The impact fee only follows the requirements for this from the state of Colorado for determining the maximum impact fee amount. And like I said earlier, it can be set lower than this. It probably can have exceptions for small sized buildings or whatever. I don't know about that. But the study only addresses impact fees. It doesn't address any of the other fees that may be involved in building a structure or expanding a structure in our district.
Ms. Sexton, would you like anybody else to answer your question?
I would like to add.
Point of order.
Sure.
Point of order.
Any
It's-
board,
okay.
any board member can answer, maybe start
Thank
left to
you.
right based on Zoom. So man in the hat, and then each person down the line, if you want to provide feedback, please.
Mr. Green's actually to the left of the man in the hat.
You can see me, I don't
I
know
just-
like that.
Oh, sorry, I
This
can't see
study-
you.
This study, is this Emily?
Yes.
Emily, this study was done because it had to be done to enact an impact fee. Jan went through this, and so did some other people on this board. You can't just, according to the board, whoever did this research, vote on this. It had to have the right procedure done in order to enact it. And this board is fully prepared to enact it. I've been watching them the whole time, no matter what they had said 5 minutes ago. And that's why the study was done, because it had to be done in order to enact this fee. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been legally enacted. I want that to be known. Jan can back me up because I've heard Jan tell me this. I'm done.
If any board members are going to comment, can you just comment specifically on my question about rising costs within the county and how that might factor into the impact fee? I do have another question coming up about the next steps about this resolution and the study.
So this is Niffy. The only comment that I'd have is, Jan answered that pretty directly, but I wanted to make certain that we also talked about, we did vote last meeting on reducing and consolidating our overall fees for the district. So the maximum fee you can pay right now is $300 per plan year. And that's reduced from what was the total before. There were 13 fees available before. So we have worked as a district to try and reduce the fees that you would have as far as plan review, and it's more of a partnership.
Are you talking about Jefferson County or just with the fire district?
Just the fire district.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's great to hear as well. It still doesn't soften the blow of all the other changing codes. It gets more and more and more expensive to make it really hard to build a home. But anyway, that's not your fault. So my next question for you, I believe you're the president. Sorry, this is my first meeting, so I don't know everyone's name. But if this study is adopted, the resolution is passed to adopt this study, what is the next step within your process to potentially pass the impact fees?
And I would have Jan answer that.
She asked you though.
Oh, she asked me?
Oh, or Jan, anyone who knows the proper process with steps.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm here.
Go ahead, Jan. I don't know
Okay.
what the next steps would be.
Right. Jefferson County has already been contacted because an impact fee requires an intergovernment agreement, an IGA, with Jefferson County. And so Golden Gate Fire Protection District has already been in touch with Jefferson County. There was a meeting about a week ago, and we provided them with a study, and they identified the various departments and districts and so on and so forth that need to take a look at it and see if they just how things, I don't know what goes on up at the county level. But
Point of order.
yes, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the county. We presented it to them. We asked them to get started on it. They will eventually present it to the Board of County Commissioners. We'll have to approve the impact fee that we propose. And the maximum impact fee that we can propose based on this is $3.25 per square foot. We have not presented them with a formal resolution yet. The formal resolution will need to spell out what we propose. Is it $3.25 per square foot? Is it a lower value per square foot? Is it some value and exemption for a smaller building or a smaller addition? That's not been determined yet, but that's what we, as the board, you as the board, need to determine is what that amount needs to be. So the next step was presenting it to the county to let them know it's coming. They're getting their different reviews in order, and on our part, the resolution is the next step.
Okay, with that,
Does that end?
yeah, that's super helpful. One just follow-up question with that, and maybe some others in the room are wondering this as well. So with the passing of this resolution for the passing of this study, are there any other opportunities for public comment? So you mentioned the county commissioner. Is that a public, or will they need to hold a public meeting where they can get comment as well? What are the other opportunities for public comment besides tonight?
I don't know.
May I answer that on your behalf, for you?
Please.
I think it's pretty obvious. There is no impact fee that we are voting on tonight that is going to be enacted and levied tonight. That is not happening. There's a lot of discussion here. I've had issues like, I read this, I will admit, I read it pretty quickly. There's a lot of stuff that, like, the ADU thing, that ain't fair. I thought that was included as a new building. So I misunderstood that. So the next steps, the immediate next steps for sure, are that we're going to continue to discuss this and come up with things that make more sense, get more input. There's one thing, you know what? You can say, hey, no one cares. We don't want to do this, period. There's another thing that says, okay, there is some sense to this. Let's make sure that we get it right. And it can go either way, right? And that's my answer. Is the next steps is there will be a lot more opportunity for public comment before we go forward. So I wanted to just go to Mr. Primer and then Mr. Roger.
Two questions for Jan, all the answers since she wrote it.
Can you hear him, Jan?
No, I could not.
Jan, you met with the county, I presume?
I'm sorry, I still can't hear you.
Jan, you met with the county?
Yes, and I was a fly on the wall. The reason I was there was because I wrote the study, and if anything came up.
Who else was there on behalf of the department?
Chris Creech was there, and also the representative from BBC, who was our consultant providing guidance. And mostly we were getting feedback from them. The county was giving, I'm sorry, not from them. The county was giving us information and answering our specific questions on what's next.
So technical question, if
my primary building were to burn down and the only thing saved was the foundation. And I was gonna build my primary building exactly. No, no. That's not clear from what I read. I know.
I'm sorry, I
that's-
couldn't hear, but I'm assuming
but-
you're saying your primary building burns down and you
Yeah.
need to rebuild. If you had a 2,000 square foot primary building, the way it's written is you can rebuild a 2,000 square foot primary building. It doesn't even have to be on the same foundation.
Which, I find that, text.
I'm sorry, again?
He asked which page that would be found on. I'm just gonna say that, you know, like I said, before, we're gonna visit this to make clarifications, but that was one of those, and it's not actually just 2,000 square feet. It's a 2,000 square foot footprint.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah,
and
that's
that again comes out of the county assessor's office. And
Six-
so they're looking,
6,000 house.
You can't, 6-story is permitted by the county.
I don't think they'll stick the badges.
I'm sorry, is that okay if I, okay, all right. Cool. Mr. Roger?
An interpretation of the response, the question was about what are the next steps to be taken? The board was saying that the next steps is that we want to approve a study, whereas what I heard Jan saying was that the board, through Jan, is already working with the county to implement the study as it's being proposed and written. So personally, I think it's unconscionable for the board to proceed without taking the plan for the operation of the fire department and the funding required for the fire department to the public instead of just enacting a plan procedurally with the county.
okay, I appreciate what you're saying. This is Jan again. But what we took to the board was the study that says this is the maximum amount we can charge. And here's the basis for determining that maximum amount.
But it hasn't been approved to be done yet, right? According to
No,
the
we
board,
approved,
right?
no, we approved doing the study at a prior meeting and authorized Jan to act on the board's behalf to go and do a study of impact fees. We did that last year.
So the study should.
The resolution is to say we approve the study
We need a resolution to make it official.
by law,
It's
correct?
just, it's just
yeah.
a procedure.
Yeah.
And then everything has to go forward.
Taxes are always just.
Then we can continue to discuss it. We're just saying like we approve of the study that she did that says the maximum that could be charged is $325 a square foot. That, and like anything else is,
I got the feeling at the beginning of the meeting.
okay. Thanks.
May I make
is there
one
any
more
other-
comment?
Uh,
May I
ask-
make one more comment, please?
Who is? Pat. Thanks, Pat.
Pat.
Yes, please.
First of all, I apologize for being snide with some of my earlier comments. I was rude. I meant the written comments. It sounds to me like your study is only going to be determining what the level of the fee is, not whether or not you're going to do a fee. Am I
That's
correct?
correct. Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's where I'm gonna lock horns with you guys, because I think this needs to go before the public and decided by the citizens, the community. Anytime that you want to decide to get around calling something a tax, you call it a fee. And you arbitrarily take it upon yourselves, just like our state leadership does, to call something a fee. And you've already decided you're going to implement this. You just don't know how much the fee is going to be. And like a lot of other people in the audience have said, you really should do the right thing and put this on the ballot. Please.
Thanks, Pat. We got John. Paul, one of those apostles.
I agree with Ms. Rogers, the parent printer. There's so much confusion about what this is. I don't like it myself at all, period. But I'll also say that the fees, the maximum fees are just outrageous, in my opinion. And I think that you guys need to consider tabling this discuss it amongst yourselves and get knowledgeable about it, and then bring it back to the whole community, not just a few people in this room, and then make the decision. That's my opinion.
I move to table further discussion on. Okay, I move to table further discussion and close community, or public comment on item number 6.2 until a later date. May I have a second?
I second it.
Any further discussion on tabling the discussion on item 6.2?
Any more? I'll call the vote on the motion to table.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
I,
I abstain. I dropped the whole damn thing on table.
Point of order.
So you're abstaining, and Dave, to
I want it
table,
gone.
do you want to table this for a
He
later
he
date?
abstains.
Table this thing.
Okay.
And get rid of it.
Okay. Okay, can I, Pat, I'd just like to say something to you real quick. Can I do that or
No,
not?
you cannot.
Okay, never mind.
If he has a question that he has asked you, then he.
I'll email you, Pat.
No, please, you're the president of the board. You need to be able to speak. I don't think the treasurer should dictate who speaks and when and.
Well,
Mr.
We're
Cersey,
trying,
Yes,
we're trying,
Cersei.
yeah, Pat.
Mr.
Pat,
Cersey, I'm not, Mr. Cersey, it is not
Oh,
about
please
me
answer
being
me.
the treasurer.
Well,
It is
if you
about
said
the
enough,
fact that
I wanted to hear
we
from
have-
Deb.
it's about the fact that we have rules for public comment and we have Robert's Rules of Order for governing our entire conversations here. And so I can say point of order, any board member can say point of order at any point and have Deb rule on it. Specifically, Deb looked at me about, can I say something to Mr. Cersey, because we were in public comment, and our rules state that the board cannot just argue with people or ask questions or say anything to them
True.
unless they ask us a question.
May I make a comment to that?
Yes, sir.
Why is it that the treasurer gets to decide whether Deb speaks to me or not? On whether,
It's not-
whatever she wanted to talk about. You don't even know what she was gonna say to me, because you wouldn't even
It
let her
doesn't-
talk.
It doesn't matter what she wanted to say. I have been appointed to run our public comment. That is why, because we wanted to have a separation between who is ruling on a point of order and who is helping to guide the discussion. That's why that is. It's not about my title as a treasurer or anything. If we had elected or decided any other board member was running the public comment, it would have been them. And I have to act agnostically, whether or not it's something I would agree with Deb saying or disagree with Steve saying. If they are not asked a question, they do not get to respond. And that is why I said, Deb, no, you don't get to ask him a question according to our rules, whether or not I would agree with what she said or not. Does that make sense, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I would like it, but that's the rules and too bad for me. I'll talk to
You can
Deb,
ask her a question.
You won't let her, you won't answer it? You won't let her
No,
answer?
you can ask her a
So-
question.
But you won't let,
Did we vote to?
I did, I already asked her. I would like
We
to
did
hear what she
post, okay.
We're
Oh,
done.
Sorry.
We're
I
done.
would like to
Yeah.
hear what she had to say, but she and I will just communicate through email and we
Thank
don't
you,
need to worry about being interrupted by somebody else.
Okay, are we ready to move to the next item?
You got a hand up. there.
Oh, Aaron?
Yes. I have a comment on the next item on the agenda.
Oh, the next item, which is old business station drainage at 83?
One after the impact fee.
Well, we're not there yet.
Oh, So,
I
No,
would
point-
like
we-
to,
Oh,
I would like to move that we table or that we
adjourn.
defer the old business to some other time,
Yes.
some next meeting.
Mhm.
And so I'm gonna number 5. I would like to move that. Do I need?
that was
to-
your
I,
item.
I would respectfully ask you to rescind your motion,
Okay,
in favor of adjournment.
oh,
I would move that we adjourn the meeting for the evening and revisit the remainder of these issues at the next meeting.
I'd like to respond to what I was accused of, all these horrendous things, I think.
Can-
Can I make my
comment about the CWD real quick? Is this-
No,
We're-
no.
we're-
All I say is that.
No, it's not like, that's not fair. That's why we have the public comment, because that's when people get to do it. That, but
Close public comment for the impact.
no, no, what I did was I closed my motion, which is recorded, was I moved to close discussion of the resolution of, to adopt the study on impact fees and close public comment.
That wasn't clear.
I apologize if that wasn't clear. Right.
Discussion. You said discussion of the impact fee.
Okay.
You know, Aaron,
So-
it's a small community, everybody should get to talk.
So, so again, I did make a motion to adjourn the meeting and to table all motions until the next
That's not
regular
fair.
meeting.
It's not fair.
It's 9:30 and I haven't seen my daughter in a week.
Second, I just said it's like a 10-second comment.
It's not fair for you to make the comments. It's all like, you have to be equitable to everybody. We've already closed the public discussion. We will have a meeting next month where we will actually discuss the CWPP. Do I have a second for adjourning the meeting and tabling all items until the next month?
Anybody?
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, I think we should discuss my accusations, how horrible person I am, these false accusations.
That's not relevant to adjourning the meeting and tabling the rest of the items until next
Well,
month.
I'll reply, it's a normal thing. for you.
Point of order, point of order. Can you rule on that point of order as to whether that was germane to the
Yes.
conversation?
We have a motion on the table to adjourn and to move the items that we did not address tonight to the next month's agenda. That's the motion, I believe.
Yes.
And we have a second. I'll call the motion. I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Steve?
I won't vote on this, it's too unfair.
Are you abstaining from the motion, Steve? Steve, are you abstaining from the
That's an
motion?
extension.
I don't think that's an extension. Oh my gosh. How did we get-
I think it needs to continue
You know,
to continue
But this,
and get all the public comment, and quite frankly, this might, I think given a lot of pushback, it might get.
this is what?
Like, we got really to wait.
I don't know how long I'll be. I'll be okay. You okay? Mad at me? No, of course not. It's a it's a complicated freaking thing.
That's why I said.
And we've had some of the best minds
We may just need a little.
and people just, what we need to